fashion hack. They keep on dissing me, but no dexterity. Wait until they hear the chorus. Sooner or later, the dice land on the table. You know that's what the fables are made of. Everybody sing, oh yeah, critical hit. My main man and double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, critical hit. This is a critical hit. My main man and double damage with it. Oh yeah, critical hit. My main man and double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. It's critical, critical hit. Now it's wall to wall, watch your foes are falling, but it's time to pause, cause Mother Nature's calling. I'll be back in a second and I'll continue the reckoning. They will still be waiting for us. And the pressure goes to make a save and throw, to introduce some movie, turn the lights down low. My armor's exposed, I'm getting full of holes. Think I need another chorus. Sooner or later, the dice land on the table. You know that's what the fables are made of. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man and double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. This is a critical hit. My main man and double damage with it. Oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man and double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. It's critical, critical. That ain't how we roll. Oh no, it ain't stolen. We on a roll. Hey, we on a rollin'. That ain't how we roll. Oh no, it ain't stolen. We on a roll. Hey, we on a rollin'. Sooner or later, the dice land on the table. You know that's what fables are made of. Oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man and double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. This is a critical hit. My main man and double damage with it. Oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man and double damage. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. It's critical, critical. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. This is a critical hit. Oh yeah, it's a critical hit. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. It's critical, critical. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man and double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. This is a critical hit. My main man and double damage with it. Oh yeah, it's a critical hit. My main man and double damage with it. Everybody sing, oh yeah, it's a critical hit. It's critical, critical.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Goglings, Gogorifics, Gog types around the world. Unite. Welcome, everybody, to a Tuesday. Welcome to episode 280 of Pen and Pixels. And welcome to the premiere. That's right, the premiere of D&D with GOG, Ghosts of Saltmarsh. We start a new campaign tonight, and I hope you people are as ready for it as I am. I am very excited. I have 4 players who are champing at the bit to be able to get going and tell our tale of coastal storytelling, something like that. They are ready to do it, and I am ready to go. And before we get started, just a couple of reminders about ways to support us here on GOG.com. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to follow our channel. Please make sure as well to support us by subscribing to us here on GOG.com, where you can get GOG.com's Twitch channel, where you can get custom sub badges and emotes, all to support the DRM free experience. And please consider clicking through on our individual channels as well, because that will be pretty sweet. And I am very excited about all of that. Yeah, so we've got D&D. I just had a really good Adventures in Middle-earth session. On last Saturday, I premiered a new D&D Infinity and Beyond campaign of Eberron on my channel. And today we premiere something new. And I am happy to say that we not only, in fact, here, let me fire up this. And let me turn on that. Hello, chat. Good to see you all. I hope everyone's doing well. And I am happy to say that not only do we get to premiere a new event for all of you, but you're also going to see something new in terms of how it is represented to you, because we're not using generic overlays anymore. No, we're doing something much cooler than that. So welcome, everybody, and let us get moving here. I'm going to unmute myself and apologize for interrupting the lovely people, as I no doubt have done unintentionally, and then I'm going to unmute them, and then I'm going to head over to reveal not only the crew, but also this new exciting, wait for it. It is the new overlay. Feast your eyes upon the new Ghosts of Saltmarsh GOG.com branded overlay, produced by the incredible and amazing GOG.com team, and shepherded into doing this by the incredible Pyron Jade. Feast your eyes. You are not prepared for the awesomeness of this overlay. This thing is pretty sweet, actually. As I look at it again, wow, it looks really good. So yeah, this is awesome, and it is thanks to Pyron Jade, who spearheaded it and made it happen. As we get ready for some Ghosts of Saltmarsh, I am super excited, and I'm most excited because I have 4 amazing players below me that, as I said before, I am super excited to have with me in this adventure, and I'm excited to hear the stories that they will tell. And I will begin, as always, by introducing the person at the top of the column and the top of our hearts here on the GOG Stream Team. And that is the Stream Team leader who got you this amazing overlay and should pat herself on the back a lot for it. And that's Pyron Jade. Pyron Jade, you are here and you are with us. So I want to ask, how are you? I'm not going to ask you yet about your character. I'm just going to ask how you are doing. How hyped are you for this campaign? And yeah, pat yourself on the back some more about the overlay. I mean, tell us more about that.
I am so hyped. Just can't anymore. I've been so hyped for like the whole day and maybe most of yesterday as well. I am so hyped. I'm excited. I'm fired up. I'm chuffed. I'm like so many good words. So yes, and the overlay. Yes, I asked the wonderful, amazing GOG art team for an overlay and they delivered. And it's just so pretty, isn't it?
It's super good. It really is super
so
good.
pretty.
I love it. Yeah. It's awesome. Yes, it's super great. So you were super hyped for it, and I am going to ask to, what will happen is, as characters are introduced in the game, I am then going to give you a chance to introduce them and also to roll additional statistics and things like that as needed. So just so chat knows, this is a session 0.5, I'm calling it, because I have some introduction I have to do of Greyhawk, the world that we're in, a little bit about Saltmarsh specifically, and then there will be a little bit of chance for play. There will be some play, but just so you know, this is also kind of setting up the world and everything else, because this is going to be our home for the next 10 levels-ish or so as we go through, assuming that they make it that far. So I'm sure everyone will. I'm sure it'll be fine. And so just be aware that is the case. And so as we go through, you may have a little bit of if you're wondering, like, I want to know more about who they're playing, you will find out. You'll just have to wait with us with bated breath. So Pyron, thank you so much for setting this up and being hyped and all that kind of good stuff. And I'm going to move right on down the line to the man responsible, the man, the myth, legend, responsible for doing the dashboard and MooBot and all that stuff as usual. But also for the first time, as you pointed out, Saber, in many years, not playing a rogue this time. That's the one thing I'll tell chat ahead of time. Not playing a rogue, and with a whole new character, new experience. So I guess I want to ask you, what are your feelings about Saltmarsh before, like, how hyped are you? What is the nature of your hype? You know, all that sort of thing.
I'm very, very excited. It's been a flurry of activity behind the scenes between all of us getting ready for this over the last couple of weeks. Like I say, new character, new setting, new campaign, new party member. So It's going to be very, very fun. It's definitely going to be a load of fun because the last 5 years I don't see why that's about to change. And it's like out with the old, in with the new, and hopefully quite an exciting character. Possibly an explosive character. We'll see.
Aha, that's a little bit of a clue for all of you, chat. Yes, I am very excited to find out more about the character and to have Saber with us for another campaign. Thank you so much, my friend. Also great to see with us someone else who is, I am very happy and excited to have with us, and from whom you will be seeing more, not just in character, but in other contributions to this campaign in other ways, as you will see. But that is down the line. And that, of course, is the amazing Professor peripheral Mike Smith. And Mike, this is now my third campaign with you that we're getting started with here. And so I guess as you gear up for another adventure of a very different kind, again, I would ask the same thing to you. Just if you could describe the nature of your hype, how are you feeling about Saltmarsh, about Greyhawk, and all that kind of good stuff? How are you feeling about things as we get started?
Man, I am so excited for this. It's untrue. I have been thinking about it. So I was on holiday recently, and I was literally Googling in the evenings after, walking in the countryside and stuff like that. I was literally reading about Greyhawk and reading about the Ghost of Saltmarsh campaign, spoiler free, and also about the character creation process for what I want, because it's going to be completely different. I've never played this type of character before, which is brilliant. And yeah, I think it's fair to say that I've had to really do my research, but that's made me so excited about it. I would be less excited if I knew nothing about it and I'd done like no prep, and I'm just like, yeah, I'll rock up and play some D&D. Why not? Tabletop RPGs. I'd be less excited, but now I'm just like, we only started. I'm already invested in this character. I'm already invested in this party. Yeah, I'm absolutely off the walls excited for this.
It's going to be good times. I have this image now, like all of a sudden it's like in the first session, and then you all die, and it just be like, "Whoa, God, I'm no longer
that was a good
hyped.
session.
I'm really bitter," and yeah. No, it's going to be awesome, and I'm very excited to have Mike with us. And thank you as always, my friend, for everything. And that leads us, last but certainly not least, to a new member to this group, although certainly not new to this channel, and that is the amazing Inanda, who has joined us. Inanda, it is wonderful to see you. I am so glad that we get the chance to actually play together now. And I guess the question is, how are you feeling about, because I know you were talking about your D&D experience, been a little while or whatever. So how are you feeling about D&D experience in general and about this campaign? And yeah, how are you feeling leading into this?
I am so excited to be part of this campaign. Thank you so much for inviting me. Plus, I was really looking forward to playing D&D with all you guys. It has been a while since I played proper D&D. Recently I played Cyberpunk Red, and I've played a homebrew based on 5th edition, but it's been a hot minute since I played 5th edition, so I'm really nervous to let the team down, but I'm with some amazing people that are going to hold my hands and lead me gently through the world of Saltmarsh.
I note, by the way, that we'll be leading Ananda gently with a character named Brine the Bloodthirsty. But I just want to point that out. Like, well, listen, when Brine the Bloodthirsty, you need to be careful. They're really sort of family related. And anyway, it's going to be good time.
The Western Bloodthirsty.
Yeah, exactly. Brine the Bloodthirsty, but secretly really desperately wants handholding.
She just wants a cuddle.
That's really what it is. No, I'm very excited to have this crew. So welcome, Ananda. And yeah, I'm excited to have this crew all ready and ready to go. What, Pyron? What happened? Things? What? Where? Just excited in general?
The names. I hadn't seen the names.
Oh, you hadn't seen the names. Okay. Yes.
I don't know anybody's names. I'm literally just seeing a lot. I
kept mine to myself.
I put them on overlay. I will explain more as time goes on. And let me tell you, Pyron, I'd like to thank you for making it super easy for me. It wasn't easy to fit your name into a window. It really wasn't easy. To combine it. No, in all seriousness, these characters are all great, and I cannot wait to introduce them to you. So I need to take a couple of minutes and beg the indulgence of the players below me to talk a little bit about Greyhawk, and about the world that we're about to enter, and then talk about Saltmarsh, and then we will get things started with a little bit of play, followed and including the introduction of characters and stat rolling and all that stuff. So most of you will be familiar in chat with the Forgotten Realms, which is the realm that we have been spending most of our time with during Storm King's Thunder. This was the world created by Ed Greenwood. It is a world which deals with Baldur's Gate and Waterdeep and Neverwinter and Flan and even Callumsport and all that. That's all Forgotten Realms. It is an amazing, place, and the fact that Ed Greenwood one person was able to essentially develop most of this is incredible. And those of you familiar with Drist and all that, is the Spine of the World, it's all Forgotten Realms, right? But it is not the first setting. The first setting for D&D was actually Greyhawk, and the first example that we get of it is actually a little small booklet that you can still find out there, which is just called Greyhawk, which is more about like things things to do stuff that's sort of D&D like. This is shortly after the chainmail game upon which D&D is based came out. And there's a couple little references to Greyhawk, but nothing serious, because Gary Gygax, the creator of D&D and the creator of Greyhawk, thought no one was going to be interested in playing in someone else's world. He was like, I thought everyone was going to make their own world. And it turned out not so much. And so he ended up then with TSR, the company that ran D&D for a long time, he ended up making Greyhawk. So I will ask you all to feast your eyes, I think I've showed this before, on the original 1980 vintage, thank you very much, World of Greyhawk folio. In this folio, which has not only a gazetteer that you can see right here, but also has this mega map. Now, listen, I need to get this thing framed, but this is just here. So here's one half of the mega map, okay? And my camera won't even be able to handle it as I open both. And here's the other half of the thing. There we go. Is that right? Did I put that right? Azure C is here. The other half of the map, okay? It is enormous, this area of Greyhawk. You'll be happy to know that I'm not going to make the players continually try to find out where they are on the map just by looking at this big thing. I'm just showing it off because I love this map and I want to get it framed, and also I'm just, geeking out about this thing that I first learned to play D&D with, which was set in Greyhawk. So we have that. Greyhawk then kind of vanishes off the map for some time, and we don't return to it until the year 2000, when the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer is released in accordance with, I believe at this point, 3rd edition, if I'm not mistaken. And 3rd edition also has within it a map, which suddenly seems to have been lost. I must have put it, where did I put it? I'll have to find it somewhere. Now I don't know where that map went. But anyway, so it's a map in here. It's a little bit more manageable, let's say. But it leads us to this, in which a lot of the aspects of Greyhawk are described. The way to think of Greyhawk is where Forgotten Realms is a much more expansive kind of world. Greyhawk is somewhat smaller and more intimate. And specifically, Greyhawk was modeled in large part after medieval Europe, and particularly the era between, let's say, 1000 up until maybe 900, up until, let's say, the 1600 or so. A 700-year period, which is sometimes better known, at least the early portions of it, as the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages, leaning into the Renaissance. And this involved countries that were constantly at war with each other, constantly battling each other, where there was constant shifts of concepts and ideas in terms of who belonged to whom, and who was, beholden to what place, and who were the allies and who were the enemies, and so on and so forth. So it is a moment where a lot of this is sort of part and parcel of this world. Conflict is basically what I'm saying, and battles between places. And so in our world, in the world of Greyhawk, they are going to be involved, the party is going to be involved with a small part on one portion of the map. And I'm going to see here if I can pull up this map and show all of you what that looks like. Let's see. I wish I found my map that I had yesterday, I swear to God. Give me 1 second. I think it's actually over there, because I could really use this map. Bear with me 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves.
Everyone on mute.
Everyone on mute. I knew nothing of Greyhawk prior to this, but I did do a bit of reading specifically relative to my character and Saltmarsh itself, where we seem to be going to be based around, I imagine, from the title.
I know.
Yeah,
I know some stuff about Greyhawk, but I have to admit I should have read up more about Saltmarsh, but I didn't.
Okay, I found it. All right, and you'll be able to see this in Roll20 shortly as well. So, the place where this particular campaign is going to be taking place is in a small coastal community, which is known as, get ready to be shocked, Saltmarsh. And Saltmarsh can be found right over near what we call the Hool Marshes here. So you can see on your screen when my camera is able to zoom in, there we go. You can see on the screen that there is a marsh there called the Hool Marshes, which is right near something known as the Azure Sea. Now, this is particularly significant, this place, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's significant because it happens to be near something called the Sea Princes. And the Sea Princes are basically pirates who go up and down the coastline and have been raiding various kingdoms, including the kingdom within which technically Saltmarsh is set, which is known as the Kingdom of Caeland. And you can see Caeland right there next to my finger. So there's Caeland, there is the Hool Marshes, and down there are the Sea Princes, all really clustered together like nice little honey bunches of oats ready to battle each other, right? But this isn't the only problem, because Caeland, of course, has had to battle many groups and organizations, both good, bad, and indifferent, including this one. And those of you who are familiar with Greyhawk will probably know something about this character, and that is right there, the Empire of Ayuz, I-U-Z. Ayuz is all likelihood, although these are just rumors, a demigod of evil. And Ayuz has existed for thousands of years and has enacted his plans upon the world of Greyhawk upon the continent here in the land of Greyhawk for that long. And in the time that Ayuz has existed, the kingdom of Caeland and many other of these so-called vaguely positive good kingdoms, although they obviously have their own problems, but at least ones that are trying to maintain some sense of compassion against the evil that Ayuz represents, have been trying to struggle to hold him back with varying levels of success. Ayuz continues to send his minions across the continent and into the lands of places like the Kingdom of Caeland. I should have mentioned, by the way, that Greyhawk's world is called Oerth, which is Oith, not Earth, but Oith, as if you were saying it with a Brooklyn accent. So Oith is the world, and the continent that we are on here is known as the Flanaess, and the kingdom that we're in is the Kingdom of Caeland, and the town that we're in is Saltmarsh. So I give you all of that background because all of that is sort of the backdrop against which these four characters are going to be trying to make their way. Because Saltmarsh, although it does have strategic importance because it is against the Azure Sea, and it has, multiple trading ports and things like that that people could come into and out of. Saltmarsh otherwise seems to be a place that you wouldn't necessarily spend a lot of time in. It is a place where a lot of money is made. The most money is made out of fishing. It's not really a tourist destination, right? It's not a place like that. And it's not a huge city. In our last campaign, we spent a lot of time in places like Neverwinter and Waterdeep and places like that. This is not a big city. It is a small area in which everybody knows each other and in which the town is provincial in the best and worst ways. It means that they are suspicious of outsiders. It means that when outsiders do show up, that they don't necessarily know what to make of them, and trust and respect in Saltmarsh is earned, not given. That said, if you do manage to earn the respect of the people of Saltmarsh, you may find that they might surprise you when other threats that seem of greater import come to find you. The Saltmarsh residents might be behind you if you have proven yourself to them before that time. And so Greyhawk itself is more conflict-driven in some ways. It's smaller and more on top of each other, which leads to more of this potential conflict. There's a good deal of political intrigue that exists within it as a result, even though there's technically no open war, except for Ayuz, but otherwise going on within the continent. And it is more intimate in terms of who it is that you get to know. And so Saltmarsh, set on the Azure Sea, so get ready for a campaign that will involve a lot of coastal stuff. There will be some ship stuff that we'll have. Not a lot of deep sea fishing, although there might be a little bit of that will get popped up, here and there. But that basically is the concept that exists behind the world of Oith, the continent of the Flanaess, the kingdom of Caeland, and the village of Saltmarsh. And I see that 119 Raiders from Frostwar has joined saying D&D hype as we go along with this. That is awesome. Thank you for the 119 drop. Jeez, Frostwar, good stuff, man. Thank you, Frostwar, so much for the raid. Welcome all the Raiders. And yes, you have come at the right time because I just about finished introducing Greyhawk to all of these lovely people. So that's the deal with Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Yeah, I think that's the only thing I need to say, except that Greyhawk is a setting which has really a lot of power for people who play D&D back in the day, because it is a setting that began it all, and because there's really a lot to it in terms of its the level of intrigue. I imagine sort of Game of Thrones being more Greyhawky than Forgotten Realmsy, I think is what I would put that way. So for what that's worth, the party now maybe has a little more of a sense of what this land is like. So now that I've established that, does anyone have any questions they want to throw at me from the players about the land that we're in that I can maybe try to answer? Although it's been a long time since I've been in Greyhawk, but I'm catching up again quickly, my old memory. Any questions? And if not, then we're going to get into a little bit of 0.5 play. What do you folks think?
Not for me.
I would like to play some Dungeons and Dragons.
I was waiting for Saber's like, could you please describe in greater detail the following
The province of
the economies
on your
of
map. Yeah.
Please, can you show me a
What
dialogue tree so I can click through it?
I note the snow
kind of
barbarians
fish?
are not the same as the frost barbarians. Could you describe the differences?
Are they at war with the rain barbarians and the sleep barbarians?
And if not, why not? So yes, thank you so much again, Frost War. Okay, let us do it up in that case. Let's get a little bit of music going on here, and let us fire up a little bit of play. And again, chat, you will see a lot of little bit of play followed by characters introducing themselves, followed by play. So bear with me. This is a session 0.5 as we go along here. Let's come up with some. You know what? I did all the C combat music, but then I didn't do C music. That's my fault. Like just general C music. All right.
We could sing sea shanties.
I could do that. Yeah. Ocean. No, not that.
I may or may not have lyrics to several sea shanties on my desktop. I'm
Good
just
man.
saying.
That's important. As long as we're not going to get
I'm
nailed
just
for.
saying.
As long as I don't
What
have to
shall we
sing the
do?
sea shanties.
I should have played as Bard.
What shall we do with a drunken saber? What shall
I've
we
got
do
that one
with a drunken
with a drunken
saber?
saber.
Early in the morning. All right. Let's see. How about let's go with.
I think that's a clip on the channel somewhere, me singing that.
It is. It is.
Okay, wait. I have a Netherworld shanty. Do I want to know what that is? Ah.
Loud.
Yeah, sorry, too loud.
No, I've got a mixer. I learned about a sound mixer.
Nice.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad start, I think. Okay, let's go with that to begin with. All right, so let us then get underway and also chat. This right here is your book, The Ghosts of Saltmarsh, that we will be playing as we go through here. And I wish I could show you the opening picture, but it gives something away, because the opening picture is somehow both cute and terrifying, which I don't know what to make. I just started listening to the rest of this Nether Shanty. This is terrible. What am I doing? This is not at all right. What the heck
They're
is
drunk. You know,
Wow.
there's sea people. They're on a boat. They're drunk. They're doing their
They are
best.
the B team. That's what they are.
I don't.
The actual band took the night off. We got
Good
the
grief.
replacements.
My God. All right. That's not going to
Little
work.
flute for food.
We're going to delete
Yeah,
that.
pretty much. Eddie,
never
you
gonna-
and Tully know a song, right? Go up on stage.
We're never going to talk about that one again. All right. That's just not going to do it. Okay. Yeah, there we go. All right. Now we're cooking with gas, chat. Now we're cooking with gas. Storm tossed, setting sail. Yeah, that's
Nice.
now we're
I
back
had
online.
a super quick question about the
Sure.
book itself. If people wanted to run this book, does this give you the option of playing this? So if you've got the book, the Ghost of Saltmarsh book in front of you, is that set in Forgotten Realms or is that set in Greyhawk?
No, it's set in Greyhawk. They do give
It's
you
all set in
ways.
Greyhawk,
Well, they do give you ways to set it in some of their other settings. This, I should say, was based originally on an actual first edition module, first edition adventure, Saltmarsh. So that was set in Greyhawk. So it was actually back in the day. This comes from an original module. So it's set in Greyhawk, but they do give you ways there to set it in Forgotten Realms, to set it in Eberron, to set it, I think maybe somewhere else, Ravnica, I think, with the Magic the Gathering setting, or Ravnica. They give you ways to set it in other places. But to be honest, like, I saw the Forgotten Realms thing and I'm like, look, I love Forgotten Realms, but not for nothing. Like, we can play another setting once in a while. Like, I mean, so that's why I decided to keep it in Greyhawk. But yeah.
No, that makes total sense. I think because of the consistency in the book styling, I would, if I were purchasing that, I would immediately assume it was set in Forgotten Realms. So I think that's just an interesting thing to me. I didn't know if they wrote it to be set in the Forgotten Realms, and you have changed it. I say we, like we've done any of this, and you haven't been doing absolutely everything. You've set it in Greyhawk because that's the original setting. I didn't know if that was the default setting for it or not.
Yeah, it is the default setting, but they do give you options, basically, to be able to change
That's
it
cool.
if you
So
wish.
if you're not comfortable, if you're running it and you're not comfortable, you're just like, I don't want to be out of my comfort zone, or my party doesn't like anything other than Forgotten Realms because they know it, then you've got options there.
Then you can. That's right. Yeah,
Sweet.
that's a good question. Yeah, and then in that case, you can absolutely switch it up and play it in one of the other settings that exists.
Awesome. Cool.
So you can do that. But yes, but yeah, my recommendation, if you can, to do Greyhawk, because they do give you some details about Greyhawk here, and you can find a lot now online. I mean, that's the other thing too. Remember, when I was first playing D&D back in the 80s, no internet, right? So you had none of these, like, you can't just go on and be like, show me Greyhawk. Whereas these players, I know, as Mike previously mentioned, went and actually Googled, like, what is Greyhawk about and all that stuff. So, yes. But it'll give us a chance to all be outside of our comfort zone a little bit. But yes, that's true. You can set it outside of there. Okay, so I think we are good to go. And so let me move forward here and do it. Okay.
Iron's making me seasick.
Are you going back? I wasn't looking. Is she going back and forth like this?
Or
Didn't do
bouncy.
anything.
Oh, just bouncing? Oh, okay.
Nope, nothing.
Just general levels of excitement. Well, let's move you over then to a map.
Let's say it like this: nothing is going to happen in the next 5 minutes. I think I'm just going to scream. But I'm muted, so nobody will hear.
We'll just see you stand up and run around in circles.
Okay. Let me get over to this one. Oh, whoops. Too far. Too close. A little too close. Okay. Alrighty. And I think I need to double check and see who actually made this map. But that looks to me like a Mike Schley map, and I freaking love Mike Schley as a map maker. He also did the Sorcery series that we played on my channel, and he's so good. I love his stuff. Anyway, okay. So, welcome everybody to the community of Saltmarsh. And I think the first thing that the camera is going to zoom in on is going to be someone who is currently walking down the street. This someone is... you notice that a lot of people are sort of, I don't know whether avoided is the right word, but they're definitely not standing in this character's way as they stride down the street. They are hooded and cloaked, passing by some of the local taverns and local warehouses and, shops and things like that as they go through, and they're headed down the street. And I would like to ask this person who has been, and I think is the only person actually who has been in Saltmarsh before, I'd like them to describe themselves for everyone, what it is that we see when we look at their exterior. Mike, who do we see walking down?
I was going to say, do you mean me?
I
think
might mean you.
So walking through the crowd, you see what can only be described as an incredibly average humanoid. This person doesn't blend, they don't stand out, and it would be quite difficult for you to pick them out in a crowd, even if you were specifically looking for them. You don't know if this is deliberate, or people around them don't know if this person is dressed to blend in, or just because there's a lack of choices in the tailoring industry of Saltmarsh, and the local fashions are brown and lighter brown. But basically, this person is walking through with their hood up and a mask over their face while they're travelling, and with reasonably scruffy looking clothes. They have a few holes in their trousers, and they have a simple vest on. They seem to have a crossbow on their back, and the long coat that they're wearing is a bit pitted and muddy from walking up and down what you assume to be the docks, or anywhere that's wet in Saltmarsh. Immediately it becomes incredibly muddy very quickly. There's not very many paved roads, and because it's near the ocean, it can be quite disgusting sometimes. So you get the impression this person has spent quite a lot of time outdoors wearing all of these clothes.
Good stuff. And I'm trying to decide whether I want to start introducing the other people immediately, or whether I want you to have to do like some statistics and stuff like that. Let me bring everybody together first, and then we'll go through it one by one, because this is of course not the only one that we see here. As the camera goes by this unusual individual, as you're walking along through this, you can also see that you are not alone here. Walking probably, or actually, let me zoom the camera over to another spot at the docks, where you see, I would say, I will ask him to describe himself in just a moment, but I think it's fair to say you see a dwarf who is currently working on the building of something. You can tell me whether it's a ship, or whether it's equipment based on a ship, or whether it's something along those lines. And he is working there as we speak. And perhaps, might cast his head over his shoulder as if he's catching something on the ocean breeze as he's working on the ship. Saber, do you want to describe your character, who does, in fact, well, I've said before, there's only one person. That's not completely untrue, so ignore me, Chad. But yes, so tell us, Saber, about you.
So the first thing you notice about my character is his bright orange plaited beard, because he is, of course, a dwarf, as you usually tend to find in crafty type positions, although he is completely bald on top with a pair of goggles resting on his head. Maybe a bit skinnier than your average dwarf, but his green eyes are gleaming in the sun as he hammers away at some chain links for an anchor. And just every so often, just taking a moment to enjoy the sea breeze as it rolls in across the salt marshes.
As this character is doing this, you can also see, I would say, walking up from the dock, and so, up basically in the dwarf's general direction, you can see what would look like to all the world a multicolored, feathered creature of some kind. And I would like it if Pyron could explain her character, who is at the moment heading towards Saber's character. What does your character look like, Pyron?
Well, my character is a Kenku. Kenku are bird people, but they are flightless bird people, and they are not that much well-liked. Some might even doubt their intelligence. This Kenku is walking with a purpose, though. The clothes they are wearing, I say they, although this is definitely a she, but who's looking at a bird and can directly say this is a she? We're not in the titty bird faction here. So, is wearing clothes that might befit a sailor, and is also having this kind of walk that you can see from somebody who spends more time on the waves than not. But the feathers look a bit unusual. Usually Kenkus are gray and black, but this Kenku has apparently tried to look like a parrot. But it's a rather bad dye job, and it's bleached out in most places, sometimes even run off, and it looks rather macabre, in a way, maybe a little sad. And for those of you who are not don't know so much about Kenku, they're supposed to be the perfect minions. They are not creative, but they are the perfect forgers. A Kenku can repeat everything they have ever heard. exactly as they have heard it, but they can't say anything of their own. A kenku that is a master in painting might be able to copy a painting of somebody else in perfect detail, but would never be able to just paint a picture of their loved ones. There's nothing of their own creative coming out of these birds. And nobody really knows what's going on behind their beady eyes. Nobody has ever heard the word of a kenku, only the words they repeat of somebody else.
It's good stuff. And the so as you are walking up towards Saber's character, yes, I expect many of my emotes are about to get used a lot as I just see a bunch of nothing but bird emotes from my thing as you're heading up there. So do me a favor, Nana, check your Zoom chat if you can, please, for me. As you are making your way up, I would say, Saber, and I haven't come up with your name yet because you're going to do that in a minute, but your character, again, maybe drawn by the ocean breeze, maybe something else, lifts his head and you can see this kenku coming towards you. And I imagine, I mean, you can tell me whether or not you have, but I would imagine you've at least heard of creatures like this, Saber's character. But you can tell me or not whether this is completely new to you or if you're like, yeah, I've seen it before, but they do seem to be headed in your direction.
Well, my character's worked at the docks for probably close to 100 years now, so it really depends on how common they are in a dock area such as Saltmarsh, whether or not I may have seen one before. But certainly, I would imagine they are an uncommon sight, even in a relatively bustling dock such as this.
Yes.
Where boats come and go on a regular basis. There's a pirate encampment not too far away. So I'm watching it with sort of interest, but, you know, it's still sort of the colour of daily life for a dock area such as this. Or the badly dyed colour of daily life in this particular case.
Yes, indeed. So that, I guess, would lead us to ask Pyron for your character. You see this dwarven figure, bald head, hair on top, just a little bit of hair on top, who is sort of looking with some level of interest in your direction also as you make your way up the docks. I would guess that you probably, because you've spent some time around the docks and in Saltmarsh, that you've probably seen this person around before on occasion. But for whatever unusual sort of twist of fate, this is the first time that there weren't a whole bunch of people around either you or him, and that for the first time you're actually like, oh, this is what these people look like. This guy that I have seen before. And you note that his abilities in terms of building and making seem to be pretty significant and beyond what the sort of standard just slap it together and hope for the best, which is what some of the workmanship is sometimes in this town. That's not the case with this character. And since you're headed in his direction and he's sort of looking generally at you, you could take this moment to say something to each other or not and just pass by as ships in the night, if you wish.
Sorry, you want me to have a look at the Zoom chat? I can't. It's just disappeared.
Can you, if you pop up, if you click on, oh boy, how do I tell you how to do this? If you click on, there should be like a little chat icon at the bottom of the video window.
Ah, there. Yes.
Yeah, and then you'll see. And you can just...
No, that's just giving me little help tips. It's not actually giving me your message.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you see that? I just typed.
No, it's saying, are you having video issues? Are you having audio issues?
No, okay, that's not it. On the bottom of the video window, there should be, if you sort of hover over it, you can also press Alt, and that will should bring up the commands on the bottom of the thing, and one of them should have a chat bubble.
No, you're minimized at the moment. Video.
Sorry, I'm trying to ask a question, and that's why.
Yeah, it's not giving me up. Press Alt.
Alt doesn't do anything.
Alt and H should open chat.
Ah, there we go.
Thanks, Sarah.
When in doubt, ask the IT support expert.
See, my pro streamer.
Yeah, and you can respond to that. So while you're doing that, so you can, the two of you can interact with each other if you wish or not if you wish.
I find myself curious, and I find myself staring. And if this dwarf person should notice me staring, I might be slightly embarrassed about it.
I'm hammering away. Ting, ting. I look over again and find that the strange bird person, I may not know the actual name of them, but the strange bird person is sort of loitering. And I just pause and look at it quizzically.
I find myself getting nervous because the person is looking at me, and I decide to greet him.
Good morning, sir.
Forgot you said you were going to do that.
Yeah, I forgot about that too.
Good morning to you.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, you know, hard at work. It's not like any of these other frauds around here put in a decent day's work or produce anything of any quality. He yells at the air around him.
I not. Like, if I'm completely in agreement with this, and I understand. I point at what he's doing and tilt my head quizzically.
Me? Oh, I'm forging some links for the anchor. Quite important to make sure these links are of highest quality. He yells at people whose backs are turned to him. You don't want the anchor chain snapping while you're anchored in a storm.
You notice, by the way, that well, you still haven't introduced yourself, so until I get the names out, I still will refrain from saying them. But you notice, Pyron's character, that literally no one turns when the dwarf says the thing about all of you. They pay no attention. They may have heard this before.
Okay. I try my best to look sympathetic to the whole situation. I point at the anchor chain.
Aye? Did you want me to fix some for you?
Shake
I
my
fix
head.
things when I'm off shift. But right now I'm on the docks time.
I bow out, like, back a little bit, because I apparently should not disturb people while they are working. I know this. And stand away a few feet because I don't have anything to do right now, which is very embarrassing as well.
I am due a little break anyway. It's not like anyone else puts in a decent day's work here.
I agree.
Why, thank you. Not many round here sees things my way.
I also want to ask, whenever that line comes out, whenever the words come out, is it the case that it sounds literally different each time in this way?
Yes.
Okay, so it literally sounds, yeah.
The Kenku repeats things that they have heard from other people. And of course, they have to repeat them exactly as they have heard them. So they are speaking in 1,000 voices. And yes, I do have a soundboard prepared.
I was waiting. I was waiting for that.
Absolutely brilliant.
I can't wait for like literally 50 places to be muted. They're like DMCA, 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 DMCA.
No. Actually, this is mostly, except for a few things, this is fine. I got my sound bites from a website called zapsplit.com that I've linked in the music command. And I actually asked them if this is okay, if I gave them credit like this, if I could use all their sound bites for this. I wrote them an email explaining the whole thing, and they were fine with it.
Oh man, this is
Except for a few
actually a
things.
surprise, a little bit of a surprise to me, and I love it. Oh man, it's the best.
My parent had told me about this, but then it completely slipped my mind until the first soundbite
Yeah.
played.
You realize at
You
some
told me about it yesterday. I couldn't wait to see your
so
reaction.
good. You realize at some point, Pyron, at some point you're going to have to do something along the lines of like, I have special skills that make me like. If you don't sample at some point Liam Neeson with "I have special skills," I'm going to be, what do you bring to the mix? I have special skills. That's so great.
So yeah, I will not have everything for every situation, but I think it will definitely add to this character actually being a Kenku. So
Very exciting. Okay. So yeah, this is Commander Shepard. This is my favorite store in Saltmarsh. Yeah, exactly. So Saber's character, you just see the Kenku just standing there, and kind of backed up a little bit.
Well, like you said, it's about. I look at the sun. It's about time for a drink and an ale, lunch and an ale, even. Double ale. Why not?
Ale and an
It's a type of bread. It counts.
It's an ale storm.
Cup of tea?
Or perhaps something stronger. Where's the nearest tavern again? Hang on. I look around. There's probably a tavern around the docks. I could probably throw a rock in about 5 different directions and hit one.
That is the case. And let me just double check here quickly because I think we do have a spot where we can check this out. Just bear with me 1 second. As I'm dealing with the awesomeness of... Okay. That's what I'm looking for. Yes, this is what I was looking for. Excellent. Please reload in another page. Thank you. Okay. So, yeah, the place that would be probably closest to this would be probably around here. This is called the Snapping Line. And that this is actually this inn and tavern, which is, by the way, built from the planks and hulls of half a dozen decommissioned fishing ships. That this place has quite a lot going for it in that it is exceedingly cheap and the alcohol is plentiful, and usually people don't ask too many questions, or at least not in your experience, especially if you growl at them a little bit. There are other inns you could certainly try, but I mean, that's the closest one.
Well, I don't know about yourself, but I need an ale. So I head up to the bar and say, "Aye, one of the usual, please."
Okay, so you're walking to, because it's there, so you're going to walk up from the dock to the place.
Goes straight in.
And are you following Pyron's character, or?
yes, I'm following. I'm a bit surprised being invited like that, and of course I'm following.
Okay. All right. So, and I'm going to come back, by the way. I have, fear not, Inand and Mike, I'm coming to you in just a second.
No worries.
When you enter and go up to the bar, you can see behind it a young woman whose name is Hannah Rist. And Hannah Rist you know pretty well, actually, because she has for a long time been involved in owning this particular place. And as I pop that up, there we go. Owned this particular place. You know also that she comes from a family of well-known lobster catchers in Saltmarsh. And she has a special kind of concoction. And when you ask for ale, she says, "Right, I'm happy to do that. What'll it be, love?" We got multiples on tap. I could give you the claw wine. You've ever said no to it before, but perhaps you might rethink about it now, eh? Now, you know that claw wine is made from lobster meat and potatoes. It is an acquired taste, I think it'd be fair to say, Saber's character.
Had lunch and a drink, so
I think I'll stick with the usual ale myself, but my friend might be willing to give it a try.
And she looks behind to see the Kenku and, oh, can't say we've had any of you in here for a while anyway. I don't know exactly what it is you drink, but I mean, I got ale and wine, or I got that claw wine if you want some.
Cup of tea?
She says, well, it's stronger than tea. It's wine. Wine, strong, big. And she starts, doing this weird pumping up motion as if she's, points at the glass and then does this.
The Kenku seems to get slightly nervous and in the end says in the voice of Saber's character, the usual, please.
So she hears that and then she kind of looks, her eyes slide over to Saber, your character, and then she's like, and she looks back and she says, right, all right then. And she fills a mug up of this other kind of dwarven spirit and slides it along the bar to you, and she says, you pay when you're done. Just make sure you pay before you leave. Wouldn't want any misunderstandings. And she kind of nods her head in the direction of two burly dockhands called Kennis and Bennis, who are brothers and are well known for having about one full brain between the two of them. They are standing on either side of the door. They are the local peacekeepers in this tavern, Kennis and Bennis. And so
I shoot them a little wave. It's like, afternoon, fellas. Hard at work or hardly working?
Your jokes don't land here, Morthwill, says Bennis. And I see you got yourself a bird companion. Maybe she's a parrot that's gonna sit on your shoulder. And they start clapping each other on the shoulder like this is the funniest thing anyone has ever said.
You're the wittiest in this tavern, or half of it at least.
And you can see they're trying to
Kenku,
figure out what you just said.
the Kenku looks at the two guys and goes,
Oh, ha 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 ha.
And they all no, just you watch yourself there. And they start whispering to each other loudly about birds and people and birds and seem to ignore you from that point forward. Okay. So you can now sit down at the table. And as you do that, as I pull up there we go. As I just write a note to myself. We now cut, as the two of you are sitting down at that table, we now cut outside the city to a figure who is striding their way into town. And if I understand the description correctly, and I hope I do, perhaps a slight bluish tinge perhaps to the skin as they are making their way on a road into town. The same road, in fact, that the character which Mike described was walking in the other direction a little while ago. So I was hoping as this character enters Saltmarsh, and let's say the road, by the way, is right... Just a second. Let's say the road is right... Yeah. Right there. So actually right after the gate, I should say. So right about there. That's where your characters are. That's where you're heading in. So Ananda, can you describe a little bit about physically what people would see from your character? And if I got that wrong about the tint of the skin, then I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. She's actually got slightly green tinged
green, damn it.
skin.
Sorry, my fault.
She's humanoid shape, and she is wearing a hood. She's walking into town. She's dressed kind of like your typical pirate. She has purple flowing hair. But when it's not hidden under a hood, actually looks like it could be underwater. It looks like it's floating as it could be underwater. If you manage to catch a glimpse of her face underneath her hood, you would see that she's got quite large black eyes, and her skin is almost moist. I'm actually RPing her at the moment
Yeah.
quite effectively.
Yes.
It's all part of the RP. Yeah, her skin almost looks moist as she's walking through. As her cloak maybe blows back in the wind, you'll see that she does have two crossed scimitars on her back, and she's striding quite purposefully into town.
So as you enter the gate, and I should say I should have positioned you right before you meet up with Mike's character, right outside the gate. So this is maybe a slight flashback, perhaps. As you walk up to the gate, which is currently closed, you can see that there is in fact a single town gate. Now this wall is generous to call it a wall, okay? It is old, it's crumbling, it's badly worn by centuries of rain and wind coming in from the Azure Sea. And there's a few guards at the gate, although might also be generous to call them guards. First of all, these people all look considerably older than the norm for a guard would be. And they are sort of lounging about. There are three of them, two standing on one side of the gate and one standing on the other, and there's one more that's on top of the wall near the gate. And as you draw near, one of them opens his mouth and says, all right, that's your business in Saltmarsh.
My business is my own. May I pass?
You may pass when you tell me your business.
I'm a traveler. I'm just passing through.
You could pass through by going around, you know.
There is nowhere else to stop for the night. Are you really going to stop me from entering the town?
Oh, I'm not going to stop you. I just might ask you for a little bit of assistance in keeping things warm at night. You see, we've had a terrible stretch of bad weather, and sometimes it's hard to stay warm without a few coins to pay for lantern oil, if you follow what I'm saying.
I follow exactly what you're saying. Maybe your mate over there can keep you warm at night.
And he kind of, his eyes flicker over, and the other guy who's lounging with the second dude is sort of looks slightly younger. These guys look all in their 60s probably. And he says, well, doesn't look like you're likely to get much out of them, Mart. Perhaps you ought to send them the other way. And Mart says, kind of looks back at you, and his eyes narrow a bit, and he says, now look, I know you think you're pretty funny, but we here in Saltmarsh don't much appreciate people coming in and making jokes about the local townsfolk. We're supposed to make sure this town's safe, and that means we need proof that you are who you say you are and that you're not going to cause any trouble here. I offered you the route that was most direct. If you don't want to play it that way, then we're going to need some identification before we can let you in.
I'm going to pull my hood down so that you can fully see my face and my hair and everything. I believe that my reputation does precede me a little bit. Does he recognize me?
I would say he probably does, and when he does, his sort of eyes kind of widen a little bit, and he's like, and he kind of almost, actually, make an insight check for me, please, on our first roll of the campaign.
Our first roll of the campaign. I don't know if I've got anything macro.
Well, in this case, yeah, you can, if you can just use your sheet to be able to do that, just D20 plus whatever the bonus would be. For insight, which is a wisdom check usually.
Yeah, wisdom.
Yep, first roll. That's right, Triffid. No pressure. This sets the tone for the entire... I mean, I'm sure it'll just be different from this point forward. So you don't entirely know what's going on, but you do notice at least his movement, which is definitely stepping away from you a little bit. And as he does that, one of his friends, or one of the other guards, I guess, says, "What's your problem, Mart?" He says, "Never mind what my problem is. Just open the gate." "Open the gate, you daft. We can't do that. We're supposed to be..." "I said open the gate. Keep your mouth shut." And they kind of look at him like, what? And then they sort of look at you, and maybe it's something in your eyes or something about you that, "All right, open the gate," they say to the man on the top, and he kind of rolls his eyes and goes over, and then you hear this as they kind of pull this ancient gate up slowly. And they do that, and then finally the guy that you were talking to steps aside and says nothing, just keeps his arms folded, but the way's now clear.
I give the side eye to both of them as I pass past them, and then carry on walking towards the town.
You might hear in the distance a certain muttering behind you, but you don't know exactly what it is as you pass by. When you get to the other side of the gate, so that was a little flashback, I need to make sure that we got that in there. But as you get past to the other side of the gate, you find yourself walking into town. And right past this area here, right past that area there, you actually think that you see that building, first of all, because you've not been here before, I believe. So that building looks to be some kind of like, it's sort of a building that has what looks like kind of a courtyard around it, and maybe a little bit of a tower. And you can see someone with a bow and arrow in the top of the tower. It might be some kind of like prison or jail, because it's certainly not a guard tower, or it would be on the wall. So it looks like something inside, like a prison or jail, and you can see the eyes, or at least the bow, follows you, kind of pivoting as you are walking down on the road. And that allows you to sort of, look at that for just a moment before you see coming in the other direction a character who has been previously described. Mike, your character sees the character I've just been talking about coming in your direction as you were starting to sort of walking out of town. So you see what's previously been described, the two of you, and if this keeps up, you will both walk into each other at this rate.
What a way to be introduced. Just smash into each other. Oh, hi.
You got my chocolate in my peanut butter.
Yeah, you got peanut butter in my chocolate. I will give this character a wide berth. I'm on my way to do a thing anyway, and this person looks different, and normally in Saltmarsh, different means dangerous. So I'm going to give them a reasonably wide berth. I'm still going to take in as many details as I can, though, like height, build, weapons, that sort of thing.
Okay. What about for your part, Inanna? Your character?
I was really hoping we could do that, like corridor shuffle, where you both move the same way at the same time. But it's fine. I'll allow him to give me a wide berth. I've got like a side eye, just keeping if I can see any movement from the person with the bow on the tower. And again, I'm going to keep an eye for any reaction to Mike's character as they walk past, but I'm not going to hesitate as I stride past them.
Okay.
Out of interest, do I know what that building is?
The building that I described before?
Yes.
It's
do I know specifically what it is?
It is a prison for the petty criminals in town. It also happens to be one of the only places in town that actually has an underground level, because most of the places in Saltmarsh, as you might expect for a place built near a marsh and on the edge of the ocean, do not do so much with the basements because they get flooded. But this is a little bit up on a small rise, and so there is an underground level here. Nonetheless, one of the reasons that people don't like being in this place is that the underground level is not a place that you want to spend a lot of time breathing in the damp, moldy air, if you follow what I mean. That is to be found in the jail cell below.
I will stop as I'm passing this person, and I will notice that they are looking at this building, and I will just say, visitors are probably around the back.
To me,
Yeah, to Ananda's character.
you said what? Sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I said I look at your character and I look at the building that you're looking at, and I say visitors are probably around the back.
And I say, thank you, duly noted. I'm not heading towards the prison. I'm kind of walking towards town.
Oh, okay. Just the way you were looking at it, you were either looking to visit someone or bust someone out. So, but I'd help you either way.
Thank you kindly. I was just observing.
All right. Have a good day.
And you?
All right.
I keep walking.
As the two walk towards each other, I should ask where Inanda's character, in general terms, is heading within Saltmarsh. Because you mentioned stopping for the night. Are you headed to like an inn or a tavern, or like what is your plan in general in terms of where you want? I know you don't know the specifics yet, but what are you looking for within the town, Inanda?
Yeah, I'm new to Saltmarsh, so I'm looking for an inn or a tavern where I can get a room for the night.
Okay. Well, let's take a look and see what we've got. You will be happy to know that if you stop and ask some of the townsfolk who maybe give you slight looks, they don't seem to recognize you necessarily, but you do know as you're looking at it that there is you're told that there is a really great tavern. And if you keep going over the bridge, this bridge right here, keep going over that bridge, you will find a tavern called the Snapping Line. And the person who tells you this says, "Make sure you don't try the claw wine, though, unless you fancy lobster a lot."
Thank you kindly. I will take that under advisement. And I give them a brief nod and then carry on and head over the bridge towards this tavern.
The bridge, by the way, is quite large, and there are shops and homes along its length. So it's very good sized, and it's large enough for, you think, probably carts to pass by each other. So it's obviously a pretty major road going in and out of the town. The other thing is that you notice there's a number of people here who are passing back and forth across the bridge here, there, and everywhere. A lot of them are carrying, some of them nets of fish, some of them various wood materials. Others are sort of pushing along like wagons and things like that as you go along. Most of them pay you no mind. A couple of, look in your direction, but most of them are just focused on their own thing. But you do notice one thing which strikes you as a little bit unusual. And what I would like is for you to make, I'm going to ask for a perception check on this one, please, as you get to the edge of the bridge. So, and in this case, we're going to be looking at perception. Did I scroll down? Much better. You notice that there is one person walking along who has kind of a sort of a low wagon that they're pulling behind them. And as they step onto the bridge, you can see them kind of like put a hand to their mouth and then like their stomach, and they look, the way you would describe it is visibly nauseated. And the reason that it stands out to you is that it happens the minute they step on the bridge. Like they were fine and they step on the bridge and suddenly nausea. And as you I imagine not staring at them, but as you sort of watch them walking by, you note that they still seem to be kind of green about the gills, not literally, but figuratively in this case. They seem uncomfortable. And almost certainly by something about the slight angle in the ears and the eyes, it is someone with elven blood. Half elven, but someone of elvish blood, nauseated when they stepped on this bridge. You feel fine, but...
Can I notice anything else about the bridge, particularly where they stepped on?
The bridge itself, you could like go over to like see the first step if you wanted and like bend down and take a look. Just by quick visual inspection, though, it just looks like the road that goes over the bridge. This looks like normal bridge, other than the fact it's kind of good sized and there's houses and shops on both sides, but otherwise looks like a bridge. But you could take a moment if you want to go over and like step, like literally kneel down almost and kind of like look at the ground where they were walking if you wanted to do that.
I'm just gonna I'm not gonna inspect it so that it's obvious. I'm just gonna make note of where they stepped onto the bridge, and try and infer anything else I can. I'm assuming that they stepped on the bridge and they were heading out of town, so they're coming towards me, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
That's correct. I will ask you, I know I keep asking you for rolls. I'm going to ask you for an investigation check then. I'm going to ask you to do this at disadvantage though, which for those in chat who don't know means you roll twice and take the lower result. Actually, it already does it with just one of those investigations. So that means that you got a 9. And advantage is the opposite. You roll twice, take the higher of the two results. So in this case, you got the 9. As you walk past it, you don't see anything in particular that seems odd about that spot. In fact, it looks like the same kind of semi-dirt substance that, over basically planks of wood that crosses over. It's obviously treated wood because of the moisture, but that crosses over this large bridge. It doesn't seem to look any different on the ground from what you can tell.
Okay. I'm going to continue on my journey. I'm putting my hood back over my head. I'm also just taking note if anyone pays any particular attention to me as I carry on.
Okay. So that brings you ultimately to the place that was called the Snapping Line. And again, you note this because the wood looks to be kind of this big mess of wood from all different kinds. It looks like someone took 6 or 7 different kinds of wood and slapped them all together to create this inn. It's certainly not the most architecturally coherent building you've ever seen, but it is the description that you see. There is a wooden sign in the front which has a picture basically of a fishing pole with a line from it and then a break, and then a fish basically with one part of the line with a smile on its face swimming away. And this clearly is the inn that you were supposed to go to, at least based on what you thought you were told. So you can enter here if you wish. This is where you thought the inn was that you were looking for.
Perfect. Yes. I keep my hood up, but I enter the inn and head towards the bar.
All right.
Make a note of who's in the inn as well as I walk through.
Okay. Yeah, when you enter the inn, it is early afternoon, so at the moment the inn is not particularly crowded. There is a pretty decent-sized first floor, and the decor is definitely nautical in its theme. You can see, obviously, a bunch of wheels, control wheels, ship wheels in the front. You can see what looks like an old rudder or tiller. That is there. You can see a couple of signs of poorly painted mermaids that are on them and things like that. And sitting at the tables, which are also made of this incredible variety of wood that I mentioned before, sitting at the tables, you can see there are a few people there. There are, for one thing, a couple of halflings who are talking to each other. And you can see there is one man who is sitting at a table with short silver hair, who is currently drinking from this mug and kind of looking around every so often. And then you can see what looks like, for all the world, there's a dwarf, and then a kenku, which you probably would have encountered, a bird person, sitting opposite the dwarf at this table. And then, of course, at the bar, there is a bartender, human woman, youngish, who is tending bar, who smiles at you with a crooked smile when she sees you come in.
Okay. When I see the kanku, because I've never seen one before, my huge black eyes go ever so slightly, imperceptibly wider, just taking in. However, unless you were really looking for it, you wouldn't be able to tell. And then I'm going to go up to the bar and ask the barmaid for an ale, something to eat in a room.
And so she says, "Oh, sure, I'd be happy to oblige. What you looking for? We got plenty of dishes on tap today. We've got, for example, we got our fish dish," and she draws out from below this indeterminate fish on top of a plate. It's clearly dead and cooked and all, but it's not clear what it is, some kind of white fish. And she says, "But we got some others here, too. We've got your own brand of calamari." And she brings up, and there are a couple of sliced bits of tentacle, which frankly look rather larger than the typical calamari would be, sitting up on a plate. And she says, "Of course, we got your bread." And every time she brings up a plate, it almost looks like one of those like display plates, you know, like you decide, you look at a restaurant, you're like, "Oh, I want this display plate." So she brings it up there. "We got this bread plate as well. Or, of course, if you happen to be one of them types what don't like meat, we can provide you this." And she brings up what looks like multiple layers of seaweed on a plate. "Our seaweed salad."
I will have that delectable looking calamari, if you may, and your finest ale, please.
"Oh, your finest ale. I'll tell you what that is." And she brings out this very attractive looking small cask. And on the side of it is a lobster's claw, which has been etched into the side, and it looks really fancy. And she opens it up and, you know, puts it out. And you're looking at the calamari, and as you're looking at the plate of calamari, you get this very strong smell of what smells like lobster, which is weird because you thought you were getting calamari, but there's lobster smell from somewhere. And it's poured into a mug, and then she pushes it across to you, and she says, "Right, you pay when you go. Us make sure you don't try to make your way out without paying, or you'll have to deal with the boys there." And she points out these two burly types that are standing at the front, who are kind of talking to each other, and every so often look over their shoulders at the table that has the dwarf and the kenku at it.
I'm just going to slyly look under my hood to see who she's talking about, just to kind of size them up in my own mind. And then I'm going to turn back to the barmaid and say, "Is this the lobster wine that I've heard so much about?"
"No, love. This is the claw wine. And if you've heard a lot about it, it's because it's that good." That's right.
I'm going to say, "Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to trying this. Can I get a room here whilst I'm at it?"
She says, "Well, we're a little crowded at present, but I should be able to put you into one of the common rooms up at the top. Beds are comfortable enough. No weevils, guaranteed. But you'll have to share your space with a few others. There's 6 beds in that room, and right now there's one other bed that's occupied. Quiet type, a gnome. You should be fine with him."
That's no problem. I'm going to thank her kindly, and I'm going to take my calamari, and I am going to take the claw wine as well. I'm going to go and sit at this table in the corner with my back to the wall so I can see the room.
Okay. You do that, and in the meantime, I'm going to jump back to Pyron and Saber's character, who are sitting at the table as you've been there with each other. I wonder if you've been conversing at all, and then a little bit after your conversation starts, the door is going to open, and you will see the entrance of Ananda's character. But first, you have a chance to talk with each other just a little bit first.
I've pulled out a pipe. Which I just happen to have lying around here.
Very nice, very nice. Outstanding.
Oh, this old thing.
This old thing. Exactly. Just like sitting in my, I'm just studying this new companion or lunchmate or whatever may come of this. I'm just like, you have an interesting way of speaking, my friend.
I nod and try to introduce myself now. This requires several buttons. Give me a moment.
My name is...
Can't rightly say I might be able to pronounce that.
I nod. And I point at you.
You can call me Morthoil Gogoniant. Or just Morthoil for short.
I nod and say Morthoil. In your voice, of course.
Aye, you got it. More than those two lunkheads at the door did anyway. Yay, it's interesting that you speak like that, because I kind of dabble in something similar myself. And at this point, I lay my pipe down and I pull out what looks like, because it is, a lockpick. And I just sort of hold it up and I just concentrate it on it. And I pull out my hammer and I give it a little tap. And then I just say, "You can call me Morthoil." Then I tap it on the table. And from the lockpick, you hear, "You can call me Morthoil."
The Kenku looks very impressed and makes the sound of applause.
Like this bird. But nothing near as impressive as yourself, though.
The Kenku makes like a non-committal movement with the head.
So what brings you to this backwater little marsh?
Treasure.
Aye, like so many others.
Yeah, I put my very small and nearly empty coin back on the table, give it a few thumbs, and try to look sad.
Well, I'm afraid, unless you're any good with a hammer, I couldn't arrange much in the way of gainful employment for you.
I nod understandingly.
I mean, hell, they barely pay me what I'm worth, but don't get me started on that.
I continue nodding empathetically.
I think that's actually a good spot for the moment to have both of the two of you introduce your characters. Then we'll come back to Nanda. Mike, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm going to jump back out to your character momentarily. So, Saber, why don't you tell us a little bit, since you were the first one to do this, of Morthwheel Gagoniant and who this character is.
So yes, as stated, my character's full name is Morthoil Gagoniant, keeping with my tradition from the last campaign of torturing Arv with having to pronounce Welsh words. And everybody else.
It's a little easier. A little.
And there is a translation bonus, but people will have to put the effort in for that. I'm not going to tell you.
I already did that. I was just doing that just then. I think that's a brilliant choice, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and to be fair, like the GOG in the surname was just a happy coincidence. It's like when it came out translated, I was like, well then, this is decided. But yes, I am a dwarven artificer. Artificer, I think is the pronunciation. It's not a word I use very often.
I always pronounce it artificer, but I've heard it artificer and artificer. It is artifice is, so I don't know. Either way.
Yeah, artifice. It'll probably change a bunch over the course of the campaign. But yes, I am a dwarven artificer of bald head, bright orange plaited beard, and goggles of many lenses. and like I say, I'm going to keep what I can do and what I'm about under my chest for now until it crops up when it's natural. But I live in Saltmarsh and I make a living as basically a handy dwarf. I work down the docks when the work's good. I work repairing utensils and what have you when the work dries up, maybe during storm season or something like that. And I'm 242 years old. And I did specifically note on my character sheet that I am 1.5 Celsius tall.
Which is good. We need to make sure that remains as a measure as we go forward. Very, very cool. Okay, so we have the Hill Dwarf Artificer, or Artificer. And also the one thing you can know, Chad, is that there are 11 out of 11 hit points, is what we start out with. Then we have waves crashing against rocks, or as Triffid said in chat, my name is My name is Chugga Chugga. Waves crashing against rocks, which is basically what that's from. Thank you, 8-Bit, for the sample. This is good stuff.
Yes.
So yes, tell us, Pyron, what you can about waves crashing against rocks, whatever you feel comfortable letting us know about.
Yeah, well, so her name is actually this sound of waves crashing against rocks. I listened to many, many sound samples, and this one is it is. Very traditional for Kenkus, so Kenkus very often have sounds as their names because it makes sense for them, sounds that kind of define them. And waves crashing against rocks, which might be shortened by her comrades at one point or the other, in some way, is she loves the sea. She loves the freedom of the sea. She just really, really wants to be out there, to be free. She loves being a sailor. She hates not fitting in that really well, but she is absolutely willing to try just to have that breeze around her beak again and be out there. And she herself doesn't really understand this drive so much, but she is willing to do quite a lot to be there again. Right now, she is between ships, so to say, and well, is looking for employment, as she was trying to explain a moment ago. What else? Yes, she is visibly armed, and I completely forgot how that thing is called in English.
Armed to the teeth is one term
No,
for it.
the what is the name of the weapon that I'm carrying? Because I completely forgot the name. It is on the one of the pictures that it's on the pictures I gave you, Arv.
Let me check.
The pointy thing.
Rapier?
Yes, it's a rapier. I'm sorry. She is very visibly armed with a rapier. Is carrying a
Excellent choice of weapon.
She's carrying a huge backpack, and there's also a shield strapped to that, and she is wearing studded leather, and she is very tall for a Kenku. Actually, she is 1 3/4 of a Celsic, so over 1.70 m, and yeah, she looks quite whippy and fast if she could be. Maybe, although she might be slow to talk, she might actually be really quick to move.
Good stuff. And has, again, the one stat I'll mention to everybody, because I think you rolled the rest of them, 13 out of 13 hit points.
Yes,
to
13 out of
begin.
13.
So we have Waves, we have who is the Kenku Paladin, 13 out of 13, along with Morthwheel. So as the two of you are there sort of chatting to each other, you notice this person come in to the inn. As is previously described, this person has kind of greenish tinted skin, but very large black eyes, and brings the hood back to talk to someone. And you notice that I think probably Morthwheel, you notice that successfully Hannah has managed to get someone to drink her claw wine, or at least put it into a mug for her, because she hands it over. And then this character comes over and sits in a table with their back to the wall, looking out at the rest of the tavern, but has definitely taken note of you. I mean, I wouldn't say staring right at, but definitely has noticed you a few times, and is certainly quite different from the other figures within this tavern. And any of the three of you can actually react, because all three of you are there at the moment. So
I nudge my bird companion. If you want to see something funny, wait till she tries her drink.
Okay. You see that your bird companion is not really stealthy, but is again, like at the harbor, openly staring.
I'm obviously observing this, but I'm gonna try the drink.
So, all right. So, you know the experience of thinking that you're picking up a drink like, water or, I don't know, lemonade or something. And then when you take a sip, you realize you've accidentally sipped the soy sauce or the brine or right? So this is like you have just taken a drink of lobster bisque. So it's just, it's like, but it's with alcohol. So it's lobster soup, alcohol, and so it, so you're like, I mean, I don't know, maybe you happen to love lobster soup, alcohol, and maybe that's the
It
greatest thing.
doesn't sound that bad to me.
Yeah, I mean, like, all right, maybe it's okay. It's really strong though, like really, really strong. I mean, in lobster, not in alcohol content. I mean, like, it's really, it's and so it's powerful, and you can almost, if you were to look up and kind of glance over, you could almost see Hannah Wrist like over the counter, like waiting to see your reaction.
I've just remembered one of my personality traits. So I'm just going to across the bar. Did she introduce herself? Do I know her name?
Yes, I would say so. Yes, and that's the owner, Hannah Wrist.
Okay, I'm just going to shout across the bar, Hannah, it's fucking delightful. And I'm going to take another sip.
So she's like, oh, that's what I'm talking about. See? None of the rest of you understand that. You hear that, Morthwill? And she points at you, Morthwill. You hear that? See? Delightful. That's what she said. That's what she said right here. You all
There's
heard it.
always one. She's probably been on the road a month, had nothing but puddle water.
I'm gonna give the dwarf the side eye as well, and then I'm just gonna look at him as I take another sip.
Still strong.
But I'm doing it absolutely straight faced, regardless of whether I'm actually enjoying this or not. I'm doing it completely straight faced.
Right,
The occasional chew as it goes down.
Yeah, exactly. Every so often you're like, it's got a great bouquet and also a couple of pieces of fish in it.
And a bit lumpy, yeah.
And a bit lumpy, yeah. All right, so you do that, and you all can see this new arrival in the tavern is drinking it down. Morthwill seems to be, bluffing really well, maybe, but it doesn't seem to be reacting poorly to it.
Any minute now.
I keep staring at her.
Yeah, you notice this at this point. I would say that you see the Kenku is like, like as only a bird can, right? Staring right at you.
At which point I just stand up and I go over in like properly striding over. I'm not taking my drink or my meal. And I'm just going to go over there and say, is there something I can help you with?
I look at my at Morthwill for a moment, a bit unsure. Then I stare at you again, waiting for a moment longer because something was announced to happen. And then I, a little bit unsure, shake my head.
No worries.
Oh God, Pi, I love your character so much. And then I'm going to go, that's good. And then I'm going to go back and carry on with my drink of my calamari. Oh dear, that's genius, Pi. Sorry. Yeah, okay.
So you head back over to that. I think that may give us a chance for Nanda to introduce her character a little bit and tell us a little more about who this character, Brine the Bloodthirsty, actually is.
Yes, my character is Brine the Bloodthirsty. She is a water genasi. Genasi? Is that how you pronounce
Genasi,
it?
I think. I think it's with an
Genasi.
I believe.
Yeah, she's a water genasi. She's a fighter. She's a full-on pirate. Do you want me to go into backstory as well, or just
No,
what
whatever you feel comfortable saying at the moment. Just basically like for chat to get the idea. Whatever you feel comfortable saying.
Okay, yeah, she's a full-on pirate. She was raised by a pirate captain aboard his ship. She spent most of her adult life with him. She's 28 now. She's been with him since she was 12. When he decided to retire, he offered her the captaincy of his ship. But she was only staying on board for that long because she had loyalty to him. So when he decided to retire, she left the ship. This is the first time she's been to Saltmarsh. She's trying to find something out about her lineage. She knows her father was a genie, and she knows that he met her mother in Saltmarsh, but her mother moved away very swiftly when she was pregnant. She's never really found anything else about him. So she's come here not demanding answers, but just to see if she can find anything out.
All right. Good stuff. And she is also 13 out of 13 hit points. And has, it must be noted to chat, has proper stats now. The initial rolls of these stats were not.
God,
I was like, we
they
have to
were
do that
awful.
again. Not, yeah, it was going to be very much like, why are you constantly stumbling and like frothing? I'm like, well, because, you know. So now we have a much more reasonable stat distribution. Okay, very cool. So as we have two of you in one table and one in another, I want to jump out now to Mike's character again. Mike, I'm curious about where your character is headed, because you were moving in the opposite direction, passing by the prison right about here. Sorry, right about
Indeed.
there. Where are you headed?
So you see my character walking towards the main gate of Saltmarsh to speak to one of the guards there. When I reach there, I approach the one who's sitting down looking quite comfortable and lazy, possibly the one that Brian was talking to earlier. And from under my hood and behind my mask, I just say, John, I'm here for the cut.
Yeah. Are you daft? You're not supposed to have that yet. I said you're going to have to wait a little longer.
Look, mate, I don't... You're literally talking to a messenger here. Listen, the Viper Sisters have just sent me. I just am trying to listen. I'm just trying to win enough coin so I can eat for tonight. So, you want me to go back and tell them that you haven't got their cut for the takings? I'm going to get the snot beaten out of me. It's not the first time, won't be the last, but they'll probably take double next time.
You know, it ain't going to take long before the Viper Sisters get tired of you too. Anyone that they ever use, they use and throw away. You may think that they're...
I'm hoping not to be there for this long. I got plans.
Come on, can't you see your way clear? Say that, I don't know, someone came and there was that crazy one that was wandering by, a pirate there that went by. You could just say that she did something, waylaid you, anything. You know, just give me another few hours, huh? There's a good fellow.
Right, well, what have you got now?
Well, I don't have much. And I'd like you to make an insight check for me, please.
I will make an insight check, but I would like to point out the fact that this will be a straight roll, as I haven't rolled my stats yet.
Yes, that's right. That's right. The stats we're gonna talk about.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
It's just like,
so I don't notice anything.
yeah. I mean, like, well, you definitely. I mean, you've had some dealings with these ones before. You know that these guards are extraordinarily bored and well past retirement. I'm not talking about age. I'm talking about readiness. Like, they should have been retired a long time ago. These people have mailed it in. And so at this point, why they're even bothering to sort of, maybe it's just habit, you know, that they're just at the wall, like no one else really took over for them. So they're doing it, but they're always perpetually bored. So, you know for a fact that they take bribes regularly and, you know, they always have money coming in. But, you know, sometimes people don't come in as often. Sometimes bribes don't work, you know. So it's possible that he doesn't have any money right now. And his one companion that you can see from this side of the wall is kind of lounging over the gate, kind of looks at you with a slow, easy scrawl, white stubble on his chin, and says, I may not have money because he owes me some. Ain't that right, Mark? Shut your mouth. I'll get you settled tonight. I'll win all the money back and then some. New technique. New technique. You ought to be telling that to all the bar wenches who ignore you, too. And he kind of coughs and, you know, spits. And Mart's like, hey, take it easy. Well, like you see, he says, turning back to you, like you see, I don't have anything. At least, not much.
Well, I take my hands out of my pockets and I kind of make an open palm gesture. And I say, well, then... it's not really any physical skin off my nose if the Viper Sisters know that you've been gambling away their take. And I start walking back through the gate.
Wait, you no, look, you wouldn't.
Change the tune now, have we?
You wouldn't say.
Suddenly found a bag of gold that you owe.
You know, you're not from around here originally, and if we want, we could get you thrown out of this place. You realize that, don't you? Don't be so smug
at
over
any
there.
given day. I'm not smug. I'm trying to survive. Look, I'm doing this. I'm going to be carrying this take to a bunch of people who aren't going to pay me for it, just so they'll leave me alone for the rest of the night, so I can sleep in a doorway.
So why you
What
do
exactly is glamorous about this?
So why you do what we do? You take a little extra and you keep it for yourself, and then you don't owe anything to the Viper sisters.
Because I don't mind taking things when I need it, and I'm definitely not taking things off people who can't afford it, and I am sure as shit not taking things off people who can knife me in my sleep. They have eyes everywhere. Them, the hogs, the alley angels, they know what happens on every street in this city. You know that as well as I do. They've got this place tied up.
You're right, I know it, and that's why I don't like dealing with people who work with them. Fine. Here. And he kind of takes out a small little bag, like a pathetic little bag, and he goes, here's all I got. And he tosses it to you, and you catch it, and maybe you heard 2 coins bouncing off each other. Maybe. I mean, that's possible.
I kind of bounce it in my hand, and I feel a couple of coins, and I'm like, I'm certainly not taking any off of this, am I? And I put it in my pocket, and I walk back through the gate.
Yeah. And as you sort of pass by in the other direction, he says, you know, make an honest living and be worth it. We could use some guards around here. Maybe you can go talk to Anders about that. You imagine? And then Mart, however, doesn't say anything. He just looks at you with his jaw set and his eyes narrowed as you continue to walk down the road. Quick note.
I just laugh in that.
Yeah, and I'll talk about it. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
I just laugh as I leave and say, well, I would, but then I have to see your ugly mushes all day.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about Anders. We'll come back to that if I forget in a minute. I think this is a good chance for Mike to introduce his character. Mike, tell us about who you are.
Absolutely. So I am playing as Silvo Janus Betulus, a half-elven sorcerer who moved to, and I use that term quite loosely, Saltmarsh about a year ago after his father cast him out of the nearby port town of Seaton. There was a reason that he was cast out. There was an incident basically involving Silvo's latent magical abilities. Silvo, even though he's a half-elf, he's only about 22, 23 years old, so he's fresh out. He is green as grass. He knows very little about the outside world, and for the last year or so of being in Saltmarsh, he's been surviving rather than anything else. He is trying to currently save up money so he can meet and hire a mage at the minute, so he can find out more about his abilities and also some of the things that are happening to him at the moment that don't seem quite normal considering everything he's heard of and read about magic users and sorcerers. Sorcerers themselves, you know, they're commonplace in the D&D world, but having natural magical abilities instead of having, you know, book smart magical abilities seems unusual in the first place. But yeah, he was born and raised in Seaton. His mother passed in childbirth, unfortunately, and his father, whilst they were reasonably close, he gets the impression that he never quite forgave him for, you know, the death of his mother, unfortunately. They grew closer during adolescence, but then an incident happened and he had to leave Seaton, so he's currently just trying to scrape by in Saltmarsh.
It's a good one, and this will give us a chance. Actually, we did not yet, chat, see stats rolled, and so we're going to get a chance to actually see stats rolled live and on stream, in person. You too can watch as this character is created before your very eyes. All right.
Whoa,
Witnesses all the crit fails.
Marvel at all the below 10 scores. Was that a soundboard? The soundboard is going to kill me.
It was so easy to actually loop that through to my microphone, I have to admit. I'm very proud of it.
Oh,
I was
I'm
actually
very proud.
curious how you've managed that.
It was difficult. And I couldn't have done it without Ebenezer, I have to say.
Good job, Ebenezer.
Worth it.
Also, good job, 8-Bit, for the sample of My Name is... What?
Yeah.
Chugga.
Yeah.
People are gonna be like, I know where that's from. I know where that's from.
Yeah,
you know what's
yeah,
gonna be
that's-
the
I keep hearing that, actually.
real freaky thing is gonna be when she starts sampling from all of you talking during
Yeah.
this campaign, and you're gonna be like, whoa, whoa, like it's gonna be like,
Yeah.
oh,
Please
man.
do that.
All right, so okay, so you know the drill with this. The way that we do things here, chat. My method is that we roll because you haven't rolled the stats at all, right, Mike? I just want to make sure.
Nope,
Okay.
nothing at all. They're all 10s at the moment, so that my stat modifiers are 0 because that made things real difficult when I was testing out attack rolls earlier in Roll20.
Yes. So so we're gonna resolve that problem right now. So the way we do it is he's going to roll 4d6, and then he's going to drop the lowest result, and he's going to do that 7 times and drop that lowest number. Then he will assign those to stats as he sees fit. And since we're talking about a sorcerer, that means I expect charisma is going to be up there. I imagine
You know it.
dexterity and con will be somewhere in that mix, and probably intelligence too would be the ones that I would expect to see up in the top stratosphere, but particularly charisma for sorcerers. So, with that said, all right, chat. My question, chat: Are you hyped for the rolling of Mike's stats? I mean, this is going to determine everything. This is going to determine whether Mike spends the whole game sort of sulking in a corner because his part is constantly dead and off to the side, or
Pretty
if he's
much.
going to be
Yeah,
a Superman.
pretty
No,
much.
just kidding.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'm genuinely, this has been the most nerve-wracking part of this for me because I built this character originally in D&D Beyond, and that gave you a standard array, and I thought, that'll do. And then I realized 1 or 2 of those standard array numbers are super generous, and I was like, cool, I can do all this magical stuff. And then I got over to Roll20, and I'm like, oh, I haven't rolled stats yet. Oh no. What if all these are rubbish? What if I end up with like 6 8s or something like that?
You're the strongest sorcerer this side of. We will.
I'm
find out.
human waste, basically.
All right, let's do it up, chat.
Okay.
Let's make it happen. Let us
So-
give him the love and the care.
4 7 times, so 4d6.
All right,
Drop
so
the
let's-
lowest one of those. So
All
that'll
right,
be
so we start with a 13. That's not bad.
That's not bad. That's respectable. I
start.
like that. Hey, Phoenix. Let's do another one.
Oh, look at that! You got a 15 right there. 15. Look at that.
That's my 15. Goodness me. See, I told you I could hack Roll20.
Yeah.
I'm
And an
going to
11.
test that the
11.
first one I rolled was absolutely pants. She would have fallen
was
over
really
her own
bad.
shoelaces.
It was like 3 single-digit scores, and I'm like, no. What? How are we doing
No,
this?
absolutely.
11, and then this is
12.
12.
Not
Better
bad.
than my
see.
average so far.
These
Yeah.
are all right. I'm okay with these so far. I should stop saying this. and then curse myself.
3.
There we
Yep,
go.
there. Well, there's one.
There's my
There's
strength.
your
Nine.
dump stat.
9 is not terrible. You know, it's the lowest.
9's not terrible for us also. How many have we done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I got to say, quick shout out to Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Was it Xanathar's? One of the two introduced the mechanics where you can change the racial bonuses to tweak better for the class you want to play, so you're not like
Yeah.
stuck. Like
Yeah.
I want to play this class, so I have to play these races because they have the bonuses that are relevant.
Yep. That's right. Okay, so we've
Okay,
got.
so that's all of them.
Okay, so
We've
yeah, we
got,
have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
a
6.
13, a 15, an 11, a 12, a 9, a 14, and a 12. So I drop the 9
9.
because that's the lowest of the 7. And then, wow, I have nothing below 10. That's amazing.
Yep. See, and you also have
I'm
nothing above
much
15.
better than I thought.
Officer Keen's like aggressively
nothing above
middling.
That's fine.
You know.
Yeah, that's what I
I'm
said
going
at
to
the
be right
beginning.
back. 1
He is-
second.
Okay.
He's dangerously average.
Well, you say that. I mean, 3 of my stats are 10, 10, and 6.
I can definitely live with this. So I'm just going to
Rolled
transfer
so
these over.
amazingly well. Saber was there for
right?
when I rolled. This was just not
Yeah.
okay.
So my charisma is going to be 15.
Yep.
My
It's almost like
So I
that's
rolled-
exactly. Everyone's like about. It's
Dexterity
about the
is
same
gonna
as
be
a standard
14.
array, and it's like it's almost like that standard array is about average. Yes.
yeah.
True statements.
My con is going to be 13. I'm going to have my intelligence as 12. I'm going to have my wisdom as 12 because saving throws and stuff, natural perception, and I'm going to have my strength as 11. All right, there we go. I am officially created, and I believe my hit dice is plus my con, so that'll be 8 out of 8.
Yes. That
My hit
sounds
dice
right.
is 6, and you said we use maximum hit
Yep.
dice at first level.
Plus the 2. Yep. So
Excellent.
8 out of 8.
Excellent.
All right.
Oh,
so
brilliant.
see,
Oh,
you're
all
fine.
my little attack stats have just bumped up by a bit. I'm so happy now.
It's one of the things I'm happy about playing as a slightly squishier class, but as a dwarf, is I get an extra 1 HP per level.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, see, perfect. Everything is settled. Okay, so we have now, chat, your the party assembled, although they're not assembled quite together yet. We have 3 of them in the same room. We have 1 not in the same room yet. But we have Morthwil Gogoniant, which is the Hill Dwarf Artificer, played by Darksaber. We have Silvo Yanis Batulis, the half-elf sorcerer, played by Peripheral Mike Smith. We have played by Pyron Jade, a Kenku Paladin. And we have Brine the Bloodthirsty, the Water Genasi fighter, played by Ananda. And here is your crew. And I hope you like them. And I noted some people saying, like, you don't have a single human in the mix. I'm like, it's right. One more time. Do not have a human. You have someone with half human qualities. Like, so we've got like half a human, basically. So yeah, this is what we've got. And also for those who came in late, you are watching episode 280 of Pen and Pixels. This is the premiere of D&D with GOG Ghosts of Saltmarsh. And actually, we've gotten to do a little more actual play than I was thinking we would be able to, which is great. So that is great as we continue in the world of Greyhawk. If you like what you see here, please follow us here on GOG. Please sub to us here on GOG. Please follow us as well on our individual channels. We do lots of this kind of thing. And next week, we will be back here, all except for Ananda. We will have Tasty Chai in Ananda's spot with Talisman Adventures, which is not D&D, but is an awesome system from Pegasus Spiele, who sponsors that campaign. So you should check that out next week. And this is going to be running for a while as they begin to learn the fate that awaits them. All right, good stuff, Mike. So where are you going now that you've headed back? You've had the discussion and all that stuff as you're headed back the other way. Where are you headed?
Okay, cool. What time of day is it? I have interest.
It's mid-afternoon, probably 3:30, 4, something like that.
Okay, cool. I'm going to be heading over, if we can have a quick look at the map, in this general direction towards the... oh, no, it's not north. Up is not north, is it?
No, see, this is what I was saying. I hate this. So north is actually... Hold on a second.
Left.
North is left, which is just... What? I don't... Anyway.
So I'm going to be heading east, but I'm going to be going past a tavern which I know sometimes either saves scraps of food or, you know, throws out the occasional free meal, known as the Snapping Line. And I happen to know Hannah, who runs the place. So occasionally at this time of day, I can nip in. If they've got any scraps of food, I can normally get it for free because it's leftovers, basically. So on my way there, I'm going to pop in.
Okay. That sounds reasonable. As you are, let's see, walking along. Okay. So as you're walking along and making your way over, I want to note that whenever you cross over this bridge, which you would know to be the known as Shark Fin Bridge. Whenever you cross this bridge, you feel faintly nauseated, Silvo, sorry, not Silvis. And the reason you know is because there was an ancient curse many, many centuries before placed upon this bridge, and it apparently affects those with elvish blood. And so as you're walking across, you always are like a little nauseated, but there's no other way around it unless you're just going to like basically swim across. You have to go on the bridge. So it's not so much that you can't make it, but it's always one of those like, ugh. And it only lasts for as long as you're on the bridge. And when you get across, then, you know, you're good to go. But
so do I know that that's a natural curse, or do I just get this feeling whenever I'm on the bridge?
You get the feeling whenever you're on the bridge. You've been told that. You sort of gleaned it, I think I would say.
Okay.
From
cool.
people in the area who have talked
So I'm
about
not going to be like, I'm not going to like hold my mask closer to my face or something and be like, God, it stinks around here. Why does it always stink on this bridge? I'm like, oh yeah, the curse.
The curse, I think would be the way to look at it, yeah. So as you make your way through, you are heading out out of the way, and right when you get to about, I would say, well, you say you like checking out the behind, so it'd probably be like over here. It would be like behind the inn. But as you're going up here, you start hearing the noise of an argument. There are a group of people that are sort of kind of like, like clearly there's some argument going on. And as you sort of look around, you can see that there are a group of fishermen, and fisherwomen for that matter, who are carrying, a couple of them are carrying tridents, a couple of them are carrying what look like just sort of heavy clubs and sticks. These are not well armed, right? But there's a good set of like maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them that are outside. And right now they are facing down what look like 2 dwarves. And both of the dwarves themselves you recognize as being also fishermen, ones who came to Saltmarsh probably about 6 months ago. And these other groups of fishermen, they're all human, by the way, are all confronting them. And as you get closer, you can hear what the argument is about. And they're saying, "That's right, I told you to get out of here. That's right, go on, get. You need to be a little taller so you can hear what I'm saying. If not, get the hell out of town." And the other one says, "There's no call for that. We're just here doing our job." "It's not your job. They were our jobs before you came." And behind him, the crowd. "The only way it's going to be our jobs again is if you get out. So why don't you do that before I send you down to the sea to join Umberlee and the rest of them?" "Oh, you're all brave, aren't you, when you got 6 of you? Look, we're just trying to be the best that we can. We don't do any harm to you." "Oh, you don't do any harm to me, do they? No harm to us, eh, lads? Until they undercut our prices. Until they go out and take their boats and do the catches and sell the fish for less. We only sell them for less because you won't give it to us for more." "That's a good way of putting it. Another way is you're trying to drive us out of business, and we won't have it. Now, there's no guards around. You ain't got no one around to save you this time. So turn around and walk out. Actually, why don't you walk straight out over the river? Maybe you can swim, assuming your head's tall enough that you can see over the surface." And they all sort of like, now they move in on the dwarves who take a step back. Now, this is happening right outside the back of the inn. So as of yet, the only one who can hear this is Silvo. You're the one who sees this as you're coming up.
Literally nothing to do with me, but I can't seem to not want to get involved. Alright. I'm going to be late to the Viper Sisters. I'm probably going to get a finger broken. I'll step in between the humans and the dwarves. I'll just say, look, what exactly is going on here? Do I recognize any of these humans, by the way?
You do. Some of these, are a group of sort of old-time fishermen, and this is a little bit of internal politics, which you and certainly Morthwill would know about. Brine and Waves would not, but or Crash, I guess. Waves, Brine, and Morthwill. Wait. Let me try that. Let me start again. It's too much. Let me sum up. Waves and Brine would not know this. Morthwill and Silvo would. So one of the factions in Saltmarsh, which has become increasingly ugly over the last few months, has been a group that call themselves the Traditionalists. These are basically human fishermen who argue, and mostly men, by the way, who argue that their traditional living has been taken away by the infusion of others, like dwarves and elves and other what they call outsiders, and that they basically feel like there are other problems here, and they want people to be gone. You also know that the Traditionalists were around long enough to know what happened when the Sea Princes, the pirates who are directly to the south, but I guess it's not the south, it's the west, if I can remember my directions
Yeah.
correctly. But anyway, when the sea princes were doing their raids upon the various towns, and they don't want to see that happen, and they feel that the dwarves and the elves and all these people coming in not only is taking their jobs from them, but is also making it more likely that they're going to bring the sea prince's wrath down upon them again. And so there has been more and more sort of noise about this, council meetings with people coming in, make Saltmarsh great again, right? Like that sort of thing. There's been a lot of this kind of discussion, and they have on more than one occasion looked at you, given you the side eye on occasion with your own presence. So you do know some of them, and one of the people, actually the head of this group, not the overall group, but just this particular group, the one who's been talking to them, is a man named Hack.
So he's in this group at the moment.
Yes, I'm saying he's the leader of this particular small group, not that he leads the overall group. But
but he's in this. He's in
That's
this
right.
crowd at the moment.
That's exactly.
Going towards the dwarves.
That's right.
Hack, what are you doing now?
What's it to you, Silvo? And what are you doing in front of men anyway? Unless you'd like to join them. Are you one of the dwarf lovers? They're all the same, I tell you.
You're causing a pissing contest in front of a door that I'm trying to get to. So at the minute, you're all kind of in my way. I'm trying to run an errand for someone.
And he says,
what do these guys ever do?
And he says, a lot for one thing. And for a second thing, if you don't like it, you can go around to the front. Oh, that's right. You can't afford it, can you? Gonna spend some more time sleeping in alleys, Silvo? How about you stay out of the way of people trying to make an honest living and not throw your lot in with them? And the dwarves kind of look over to you. You can tell, by the way, Silvo, that the dwarves look a little nervous. They're sturdy, they're sturdy, strong types, but they're a little nervous. These are not fighters, really, and they've been accosted and harassed before.
You're right. I can't afford the front door of the Broken Line. And to be honest with you, until your mum changes a mattress, I'd rather sleep in an alleyway. So it's very much to do with whether or not your mum can afford a new bed. So
at that, there's a crowd that started to gather, and a few of them chuckle. And Hack is not amused, and he says, "Oh, that's funny, yeah. Let me tell you what I know about people in mattresses. They're likely to get their throats slit, especially ones who work for the Viper Sisters." And a couple of people look at him. He's like, That's right. It's what this one works for, is the Viper Sisters, but not for much longer. Because they don't much like people who wise off to the real people in this town, and they ain't ones with pointed ears. No, get out of my way. Now, at this point, I would like the people inside the tavern, many of whom have started to leave to go see what the fuss is anyway. So specifically, Brian and Waves and Morthwill, I'd like to have you make a perception check for me, please.
Ooh, 21.
nice.
Okay. 17.
God damn, these walls are made out of
21.
paper.
Yeah, and we get a 21. Oh, wow. Yeah, so you all hear this argument going on outside. And Morthwill, you recognize Hack's voice immediately, and you pretty much know what this is likely to be about because you, too, have been occasionally the source of his ire. Although, because you're not, fishing and stuff, it doesn't come quite to the same level. But he basically is kind of like, are you one of them type of thing on occasion as well. So you recognize this for sure. Waves, you probably don't. You certainly hear it, and you hear that it's an argument. You don't necessarily know the specifics of this. And Brian, you've been around enough to know what garden variety bigotry sounds like. And this sounds like a lot of that.
Ah, hells. He's at it again. Found himself another weakling to pick on. Excuse me, my friend. Gotta go put a crap artist in his place. And at that, I take my leave from the table and make my way to the back door.
I follow him, but make sure to leave my coin on the table because I've been warned.
Okay.
Something's happening.
Aye, indeed.
Okay. What about you, Brian?
Okay, I am going to. I will have finished my claw wine and my calamari by now. I'm quite nicely bloated, but I've been around enough bullies to absolutely despise their kind. Um, so I'm gonna go and check it out. So I'm following them to the door, but I'm gonna draw both of my scimitars at the same time.
Ooh, nice. So as you walk forward, I like the idea that as Morthwill and Waves, you make your way out, you hear this sting, and the two scimitars come out in their practiced way as Brine exits right behind you. So you walk out to see this group that is now gathered around in the classic circle, around these two groups. And what you see are, first of all, a set of about 5 or 6, it looks like, of human farmers with basically pitchforks, or tridents in this case, and a couple of clubs and things like that, facing down a couple of nervous-looking older dwarves. Again, Morthwill, you would recognize these dwarves, even though they're not, artificers or whatever, but you definitely recognize them from down to the docks. These are fishermen who've probably only been in the town about 6 months or so. So you see that. And then between those two groups, you see one lone cloaked figure. I assume the cloak is still up. Cloaked figure standing between them. And the only one who recognizes this person is, the two people that recognize them are Morthwheel, because you've seen this person around, usually sleeping outside in an alleyway or so for the better part of a year. And Brine, because this is the person you passed who talked to you about the prison on the way into town.
I'm going to give him a almost imperceptible nod, and then I'm going to turn towards the humans. How many are there?
6.
What was the leader's name again?
Hack.
Hack. Oh, Hack. Found yourself another way to feel like a big man, have you? I remember you when you were a glint in your mam's neighbour's eye. I remember your father, too. Shy of a day of work, the both of you.
And Hack sort of looks at you and, I see the dwarf's come to defend his own, has he? Like I told you, they're all the same, and when it comes to it, they'll do everything they can for themselves and not for us. But go ahead, why don't you join your filthy elf companion and the other 2 dwarves here? And why don't you get out while you're at it, Morthwheel? Not that anything ever good has come out of your carpenter's tools. When's the last time you did your work, when you didn't hear the screaming of the people you probably killed when that ship sank 3 months ago? Huh? Is that your dwarven craftsmanship there in your mines? And he puts on a false Scottish accent, like dwarvish. And some of the people, now, I do want to point out here, some of the people chuckle, some of the people don't. The mood is electric, but it's very clear that the town, like the townspeople around them, are not really taking sides here yet. It's more that they're just kind of looking to see what happens. So, yeah, for what that's worth.
I'll not be lectured on a day's work and good craftsmanship by a man who weighs half the day, lying in the shade of a tree with his sister.
And he nods and he says, it's smart. That's smart, are you? So smart that it probably won't matter if I separate your head from the rest of your body then. You lads go for them. The dwarf's mine. And now he steps forward towards the dwarf, and the other 5 sort of move slowly, just a little bit, towards you, Silvo. So now I need to know what everyone who's outside, who's not one of those people that I just mentioned, Silvo and Morthwell, I'll come to you in a minute. Waves and Brine, what are you 2 doing?
I am facing, I'm like drawing myself up to my full height, and I'm going to take one large step towards the humans, and I'm going to point a scimitar directly at the mouthy dude, and then I'm going to say, if there's one thing I fucking hate, it's a bully. And then I'm going to kind of spark my scimitars together in a fashion that shows how sharp they are.
Make an intimidate check for me, please. I think that is a classic intimidate check, actually. Well, so
not even a little bit intimidating.
He's So he kind of looks and he's like,
Is this a good time for me to point out I could have cast guidance on that, but forgot I had it?
oh, well, actually, I should remind chat that you can also inspire if you have them over on my channel, just like we used to do before. If you have inspirations from my channel, you can use it here, although technically I usually call for that before the roll, but we could do that. But
do also have like a bad reputation feature as being a pirate. I don't know
yeah,
if that
tell us
helps
about the
at all.
bad rep feature, because that definitely worked on the guards.
It says an alternative to a sailor is a pirate. It says if your character has a pirate background, you may select this background feature instead of ship's passage. No matter where you go, people are afraid of you due to your reputation. When you are in civilized settlement, you can get away with minor criminal offences such as refusing to pay for food at a tavern or breaking down doors at a local shop, since most people will not report your activity to the authorities.
So I'm going to give you inspiration on this check. I think that's enough for, especially in front of a group, to be able to convince them maybe
Amazing.
otherwise. Yeah, it's awesome.
So on this,
Super
I
awesome.
whip out a small black sphere from my pocket and I shake it, and I seem to stare at it, and I go, yes. And now Brine, has guidance, so can add a D4 to her roll.
So get to roll again, Brian, and roll a d4 additional to that. I also love the idea that all this is happening. I love this. Like, this is the greatest visual. Awesome. All right. Saber's got a magic 8-ball. Science point to yes.
I thought I'd get away with that for longer before someone cottoned off.
So remind me again what you want me to do. You want me to roll a
So
an
you're going to roll
intimidation check?
Yeah, you're going to roll an intimidation check again. We're doing it at advantage in general. So that basically just means roll a second one now. I assume it will be higher. Let's hope so. And then you're going to add D4 to that result. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now a D4, you roll additional, and we'll add it to that. 19. That's more like it. So you do that, and this time, sting. This is what actually happens. So the sparks go off. And a few of them in the back say, "Oi, you know who that is? That's Brian, that is. Brian. So you hear this, like, conversation going, and Hack is like, "What's wrong with you lads?" He's like, "What's wrong with you, Hack? I'd feel like taking breaths for a little bit longer. You know who that is?" "No, who should it be?" "It's Brian the Bloodthirsty, you moron." And they all slide back. And literally almost literally melts into the crowd. Like, they just are like the Homer Simpson gif, right? And it's just Hack facing the two dwarves, and of course Silvo standing in front, and of course Brian, you facing them. And the Hack looks, and he sort of looks around and realizes that he's quite outnumbered at this point. And he's like, "Right. I guess I figured who exactly is a lover of the non-humans here. You may be a pirate, but you ain't from this town. And eventually, me and the tradition..."
Just be thankful we're not at sea, otherwise you'd be fucking keeled hauled before the end of the day.
And he kind of growls and he says, "Fine. When the traditionalists find you, don't blame me when you die in your own throat's blood." And he turns and he pushes his way through the crowd, and they all sort of like, not exactly make a path from it, they sort of lead him, and then they're all like, and then because
Tell your sister I'll be round later.
So a couple people laugh at that. And then, of course, because the fight is broken up, immediately everyone departs feeling somewhat disappointed, probably. And that just leaves us with Waves, Morthwill, Silvo, Brine, and the two dwarves. And the
I'm
two
gonna help
dwarves...
the two dwarves up.
Yeah, and the two dwarves stand and they're like, "Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was kind of you. I appreciate it. And all of yous, and he looks over at you now. He looks at you, Brian, and he's like, I'm surprised you helped us. I've heard stories, but thank you. And thank you." Like, they kind of don't really meet your eyes, Brian. And they say, "Thank you for your help, all you. If there's anything we can do, please let us know. I got this," and he kind of reaches in. He says, "Oh, I got, oh yeah, and he pulls out a little pouch, and out of the pouch he pulls a single copper piece, And he says, "It's all we got right now, but it's better than what you would have happened to us otherwise. Here, have this." And he presses it on you, Silvo, because you're the one who helped him up and is standing right next to him.
I press it back into his hand, and I'll say, "It's not. You don't need to pay for this sort of service. Don't worry about it."
You realize they're going to come after you now. They're hacking those traditionalist bunch. They find out about this, they'll come after all of you.
Yeah, this city's not kind to newcomers, trust me. I've been here about a year. The traditionalists have been a pain in my arse since the day I arrived. I've had the shit kicked out of me enough by them to know that a lot of the time, if there's more than 5 of them, it's a problem. But Hack has more mouth than trousers, so I won't worry too much about it. Now, if you're injured and you can afford it, then there's a healer down the road, and if not, there's a seamstress that won't ask too many questions down the other way, so it's up to you.
Yeah, well, we'll keep that in mind. Thank you, and if you ever need any help, you know who to find. Thank you. And they kind of, clap each other on the shoulder and nod to all of you. Again, Brian sort of, like a little bit, like nervously, and then sort of slide around and continue down that way, so that all 4 of you now are standing outside the snapping line.
Well, you look important. Thanks for that. I extend my hand to Brian.
I think that was you.
I'm going to just wink at them and then I'm going back into the bar to go and finish my food.
Okay.
I tap Silvo on the elbow. Say, "You did a brave thing there, friend. Not a lot stand up for the downtrodden and the bullied. I've been here 100 years and they're getting worse all the time, these traditionalist scum."
I don't know how brave that was. Stupid, yes, and you've been here a lot longer than I have. I've seen you around quite a lot, but I don't know.
Well,
there's some
bravery.
Change coming, and sometimes it takes a stupid act to force it.
Fine line between bravery and stupidity, and sometimes it just depends which side you're looking at it from.
When you find out the difference, let me know. Yeah.
I'll let you know. Been working on that one for 200 years now.
All right. I'm going to go into the back of the tavern and try and find Hannah.
Well, you need to pay them before they send those 2 rockheads at the door after me.
Well, Dennis and Dennis. That's all right. Just run around in circles. They'll hit each other.
You're probably not wrong. You could also give them a piece of paper saying, "Please turn over" on both sides. That'll keep them occupied for a week.
I'll have to remember that one. I look at Waves, and there is a moment where my eyes go wider. I mean, I've still got the hood on and the mask and everything, but I'm just like, never seen one of you before. Hello. I'll sort of stretch my hand out.
Hi.
I shake his hand.
Does Waves have hands, or is it like
Yes,
wings?
Kenkus have hands and not wings. Which
Okay, cool.
they are
I'll have
very
to just
sad
grab a
about.
quick image of a Kenku so I know. But yeah, I will shake your hand. You're an interesting looking person.
You can see her like nod her head a little bit at interesting looking. Apparently she has heard that one a lot, but doesn't really say anything about your looks.
That's fair. That's understandable. Well, I got somewhere to be pretty soon, but I need to go into the back of the tavern first, see if Hannah's about. So if you don't mind. It's been fun. We
Okay,
should do this.
see you
We
later,
should do this.
bye-bye.
It's been real fun. We should do this life or death thing more often. And I head
They
into
were
the back
no
of the tavern.
trouble.
All right, so Brian's in, Silvo's in. Morthwill, you said you're heading in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Waves following or not?
I'm a natural follower. I'm walking after Mothra right now.
It's such a funny image just thinking of like Waves. Okay, So when you pass back inside, you notice a few things. First of all, Silvo, Hannah's over by the bar. She has definitely a concerned expression on her face, you can see, without even an insight check. And then, Brian, you're back at your table, I believe, or I assume. Is that right? You're at your table, Brian? Back doing your thing?
I am, yes.
Okay, so you're back doing that. And then, Morthwill, your table with the coin on it, apparently, is still there and still available. And you notice now that standing up with his arms folded, regarding all of you seriously, is the man that I mentioned who was tall and tan with the short silver hair. He is actually standing and leaning against the bar, not far away from where Hannah is standing. So, Silvo, if you want to do whatever or whoever wants to do whatever can at this point.
I just want to ask. Yeah, everybody.
Sorry, that was my fault. I should have realized. Everybody do everything at once. No, go ahead, Silvo first.
I want to ask Hannah. Basically, I want to apologise for the ruckus outside, but also sort of say, "Don't suppose you got any scraps?"
She says, I can give you something, Silvo, but you gotta be careful about them. You know what they're like. Maybe Heck's a blowhard, sure, but he gets enough of his people behind him. It's not like you got any safe places to be. And the Viper Sisters sure as hell ain't gonna protect you against the Loyalists, you know that.
No, I know that. Don't worry. I'm not working for the Viper Sisters for long anyway, and you know me, I'll work for pretty much anyone who'll give me coin. This time next year, I could be running messages for the Traditionalists.
Unless you got your throat slit. You gotta be careful.
Fuck. I wink at Hannah and I say, look, I'm just passing through, you know me.
And she sighs heavily, and she pulls out a couple of things. And she pulls out, and it looks like she's taking it out of the mug, a couple of bits of lobster. And she's just like, all right, this is from my best ale, I want you to know. And he places this alcohol-covered lobster on a little bit of a plate and slides it across.
Nice.
And
I devour it immediately.
Okay. Now, Morthwill, I would like you and I would say, I guess all three of you who are not Silvo, to make perception checks for me, please. Because I think all of you in various ways might be looking at this sort of thing. Waves. This is what happens when you're behind someone looking at them. Yeah.
Selsig lives again in me.
Indeed.
I'm taller than him.
Yeah, you're like,
still.
what? You hop. So, so Brian, you can see, definitely you can see Silvo chatting with Hannah, and then you can see Hannah pushing something across and him eating it. You can definitely see that. In addition to that, Morthwill, you are able to see that she looks, her concerned expression that I mentioned seems to be for Silvo, at least in part, that she's obviously worried about him. And you also, of course, see the person that I mentioned leaning on the bar. And Silvo, as you are turning around, the man with his arms folded says, I couldn't help noticing what you said just then. Am I to take it then that you've had some difficulty finding proper employment? Now, you have seen this person around, Silvo, but usually you see him in the company of one Anders Saltmarsh. Now, Anders Saltmarsh is a noble who owns a whole fleet of fishing boats. Morthwill, you would be familiar with this as well. And Anders Saltmarsh recently inherited that after the untimely death of his mother, Petra. He is part of the town's council, and you know that he is also the youngest person ever to be elected to the council. And wherever he is, this guy who is his butler, his manservant basically, who also served his father, this guy is around. Always kind of very measured, thinks before he speaks type of character. You've never really had any interactions with him, though, but you've definitely seen him in the company of this Anders all the time. And you think his name might be Ska something. You've never really heard it, because he's not the guy that everyone talks to. He talks to people talk to Anders. But you've seen him in the company of this person.
And he's saying this to me, isn't he?
He's saying it to you.
Yeah. Well, I finished my food, so I'll slide my plate back over and I'll turn to this person and I'll say, "Yeah, you could say that. Wait, you're always with Anders, aren't you? Anders Solmar. You're skirmish,
Close. And
Scarsdale,
he bows slightly and he says, Skaren Wave Chaser. Yes.
Scarron. That's it.
I am Anders Solmar's servant, yes, as I served his father. And it's been my job to be able to look out for people in the town. Anders, you know, has some ambition for Saltmarsh, and he would want to see people brought together, not separated the way that those like Hack and his crew would do if they got the chance. I had a chance
Wow,
to see
as
what
I'm-
you did for them, and I'm wondering, was that a death wish or a true desire to see an innocent person protected?
I glance around a little bit before speaking. You know as well as I do, this town isn't the nicest place in the world, and sometimes some people can take it upon themselves to bully others who they think are beneath them. Now, whether it's through my height, build, abilities, upbringing, race, shall we say, I've been on the receiving end of this quite a lot since I got here last year, and if there's something I can do to stop that happening to someone else, then normally I'll do that. And I take like a scrap of bread out of my pocket. I'll tear a bit off and I'll eat a little bit. I'll say, but skirmish, you know me. I'm always up for a little bit of lucrative coin if you have the right job for me.
And he says, I might, but I wouldn't want you to take it on your own. And he looks at the table with you, Brian, and he says, oh, actually, no, he's going to come to you last. He looks at the table with Waves and with Morthwill, and he says, well, Morthwill, I always thought you had a tendency to stick to yourself and your ships. Suddenly I find that you're out there trying to protect the people. Now, Morthwill, you have spoken once or twice only with Skaren Wave Chaser, who, it is true, was also the servant of Anders' father, and the mother, for that matter, Petra. So you know of him. You always have gotten the impression about him that he's always thinking 3 steps ahead of everybody else. You know, like he's always very careful about what he says and when he says it. And of course, Waves, you do not know this person at all, but yeah.
I noticed the non-human anti-sentiment's been getting a bit stronger these last 30 years or so. Gets a bit tiresome when one can't just enjoy an ale after a quality day's hard work and superior craftsmanship.
And he nods. He says, I couldn't agree more. And I think there might be a way that you could make that more possible for you and the other non-human residents here in Saltmarsh. And his eyes flicker over to you, Waves, and he says, I noticed you standing by his side. I don't know how well you know him, but we have heard of the Kenku here. You also will not be appreciated unless something is done. I'm curious as to whether you would join him, and he nods over to Morthwill, and him, and he jerks his head to Silvo, if there was a chance to make things safer for non-humans in this town.
He looks at him with a definitely questioning expression in her eyes.
Treasure.
And he says, yeah, he looks a little taken aback. He says, yes, I think it's fair to say there will be some treasure as a result of this.
She nods very much in agreement and extends her hand for a handshake that looks like, let's make a deal.
Okay. And so he reaches over and he does shake your hand. And he says,
You have chosen wisely.
oh, man. So he does that. He does not, in real life, actually laugh. He just, very seriously looks at you and tries not to be thrown off by that awesome sample. And then he finally turns and he says, 3 of you. But the one who really scared them off was you. And he looks at you, Brian. He says, I've heard of you, Brian the Bloodthirsty, and so did they. If I were the king of Kaeland, I'd be expecting to put you in the brig right now. But I'm not the king, and although this is Kaeland, this is also Saltmarsh. I'm wondering why you stopped that. There are rumors that someone like you would have just as easily killed those dwarves and taken what they had for themselves, for yourself. Why protect them exactly?
I've finished my food and I'm currently like picking like bits of grime out from under my nails with my scimitar.
Okay.
I'm obviously listening quite intently, but I'm trying to look casual about it.
Mm-hmm.
And as I look up, I say, I can't stand bullies. We don't put up with that kind of shit. Everyone works together or nobody works at all. And quite frankly, I get tired of people's attitudes when they pick on someone slightly less prepared than them. And I just carry on picking my nails with my sword.
And he sort of nods slowly, and he says, well, the Loyalists won't be happy with me. And just before I go on, Silvo and Morthwheel, I mentioned the Traditionalists. The Loyalists are a second faction within town that are basically newcomers from the northern reaches of Kaeland who are loyal to the king. And these are the ones who basically feel like the town should be like an asset to the crown. So very anti-piracy, very anti-smuggling, not in favor of the Traditionalists because, but per se, I mean, but mostly just because they think the Traditionalists are too worried about Saltmarsh, and the Loyalists think you ought to be worried about the crown. So, but just wanted to throw that out there because you would know that as a little bit of information. And so they say, he says, the Loyalists won't like it. But I think you worked fairly well together with these. Because I don't know if you noticed, but one of you, and his eyes flicker over to you, Morthwheel, gave you a little bit of an assistance on your show of force back there. In fact, I think the four of you would be an interesting group. What if I were to give you something that would be profitable, beneficial, and would do a service to Anders Salmor? 3 birds, and he stops. 3 things with 1 result. What say you, Brian? Can you join with 3 others for the benefit of profit and to rid the town of some bullies?
Profit is always in favor. However, I would counter that offer with some information. I will help you, but I'm looking for some information. If we succeed, you give me the information and the coin. How does that sound?
What's the nature of this information?
Well, I am looking for a certain genie who might have appeared here about 30 years ago.
Genie. I think I remember when something like that happened, yes, although I was young at the time. And he sort of nods slowly. All right. I'll have my men gather what information they can. Perhaps you might even get some of it from Morthwheel here. He's been in the town longer than I have. And you might be able to get some information as well in the process of engaging in this mission. Yes, if I can, I'll get you your information.
If anybody notices, it's like that waves crashing against rocks. It's seriously perking up during this conversation. Some of you might realize that there are some birds who are happier when they have a flock, and it's not like she's actually dancing on her bird feed or something like that, but she has definitely perked up.
I smile, still chewing a bit of bread, and I'm just like, I'm with the bird. If there's treasure involved, I'm in.
So
I extend my hand towards Brian to also shake it because I have not shaken her hand yet. It's the only one.
So, Brian, you'd have to stand up and walk over if you were going to do that, which you could. If you wanted.
I'm going to stand up and put my swords away because I'm not trying to be in the least bit intimidating, and I offer my hand.
Okay. And Morthwheel, and I don't think you've reacted yet to this.
Aye. These bullies are getting more out of hand and need to be kept in check. Plus, the shine's gone out of fixing burnt frying pans and hammering chains these last 50 years or so.
So he gestures to the table that you two are sitting at and pulls up 2 more chairs for you, Ryan, and for you, Silvo. And then he pulls up a chair himself and sits down, and he says, "Very well, then, we're agreed. I need to tell you a story about the sinister secret of Saltmarsh. And that is where we're going to bring our first session to a close." Wow, that was awesome. Holy crap. So good. The characters are great. So great. And I love the setup already. That is awesome. Good stuff, everyone. And yeah, you know, I everyone got a chance to sort of do their thing and make their characters shine. I don't know how chat feels, but that was sweet. I'm super excited. Man, sign me up for more pirates. More pirates. Yeah, good stuff. Very, very good work. I will start at the bottom. Inanda, I'll tell you what, like, if your thing about, like, well, it's been a while since I played D&D, like, if that's you rusty, I can't wait to see what happens when you're not rusty, because that was really good. Very, very good stuff. It felt to me like you were enjoying getting into that character, too. Like, the image of the scimitars, sting, I was like, damn, it's gotten real now. That was
I'm loving
fun.
her already.
It was fun. It was really fun to watch. How did you feel about today's session, and where might the fine people in chat find you next?
Talking to me?
Yes, so I'm starting with you.
Excellent. Yes, I absolutely loved today. Thank you so much, Arv, and I'm loving Brian. She's brilliant. But yes, you can find me over here on GOG on Saturdays and Mondays, and on my own channel for the rest of the week. So, yeah, and obviously back here when we're next playing D&D.
Good stuff. Yeah, I'm very excited, and welcome to the crew. Well deserved. Fit in very well with it. So thank you, Ananda. Moving right on up the line, Mike. I'll tell you what, Silvo. I really enjoyed sort of Silvo as this character that's, you know, kind of off on his side in a parallel, but also fits in, like, knowing his own version of Saltmarsh. I like that from everybody, the ones that were in the town, not in the town, and all that kind of stuff. And we got a chance to see it because you're an outsider, but not, right? I mean, you've been in the town, but you're also not connected to it, and obviously you have your own things you're searching out. But I like that, and having it outside the snapping line made it real easy then, as other people gathered to sort of deal with this garden variety bigotry moment that we had. But it was really good stuff. How did you feel about today, and where will the lovely folks find you next?
Yeah, I knew the minute you mentioned that the snapping line was owned and run by a human female called Hannah. I'm like, that sounds like someone who would take pity on a poor orphaned urchin half-elf boy. Like, that is someone who would give me some scraps. That is a definite story hook right there. So I'm going there and I'm going to get some food.
And you were right. She's worried about you.
Yep, absolutely. But perhaps more on that in another session. But yeah, it's such a different character for me because my immediate reaction was, you know, square up to bully, take fight to person. And in the back of my head, I'm thinking, I am a magic user. I am squishy as hell.
Yep.
Like, this is not going to end well. I mean, I'd have still taken the beating, don't get me wrong. But yeah, in my mind, that was going to go one of two ways. I was either going to try and intimidate or, like, persuade my way out of it, and I think that's gonna really open up different options to me because I'm so used to characters who just hit first, ask questions later. This kind of forces me out of my comfort zone of I'm gonna have to think about situations slightly differently, maybe use my words more. Do you know what I mean? And I'm absolutely loving it. I love how just cohesively all of the characters came together, and it didn't feel oh God, what I love is it didn't feel clunky. It didn't feel forced. It's a proper situational thing. And just, mwah, that's a proper testament to your ability as a GM as well. And
Oh, thank you.
being able to knit all of that together with such diverse characters as well. I love this party. Like the individual characters nailed it with the different party members. As soon as you started introducing the different people, Morwen, Brian, and Waves, I'm just like, God, these are such interesting characters. Like,
I love it.
super, super interesting characters. But yes, absolutely loving it. Cannot wait for the next session. Can't wait for Talisman as well, which I'm really excited about as well.
That's right.
If you want to catch more of myself, you can catch me on my YouTube and Twitch channel this coming Thursday at 4:30 p.m. BST, where I'll be streaming some more lo-fi gaming with Spiritfarer. And with the recent E3 announcements of the Wholesome Games list from the Wholesome Company, there will be a lot more lo-fi gaming episodes in future.
Good stuff. Thank you, Mike, very much. And I am pretty much in agreement with you about the fun of sort of putting it all together. But it helps to have players that work so well with each other. That was great. And also, I mean, listen, it's the GOG crew, so quite obviously, I mean, I understand that you're an alumnus, but still, it's all part of that mix. GOG, sponsor us, do more. I'm just kidding. Like, continue to do more. Increase you're doing great. Keep it up. We love it. But thank you, Mike, always. Saber, man, I'm Morthwill was a lot of fun, I think. For one thing, it was great to see a character that's sort of like, curmudgeonly, but not obnoxious about it. Has kind of a core of, I've been around for a long time, and I love the idea that we had a character, and I did have in my notes that you were from the town. I just meant that I was going to deal with Mike first, but I love the fact that you really are by far the longest resident of the party in the town, so you do know these factions, because these factions are going to come into play, traditionalists and the loyalists, and they're not the only ones. For a town of about 5,000, it's got a lot going on, and a lot of those 5,000 are out at sea half the time, but still there's a lot of stuff going on all the time, and so figuring out how to navigate all of that, literally and otherwise, is going to be a big part of this. So that was fun. Plus, that was a pretty clutch guidance added on to Brian's awesome Intimidate check that we got too. So how'd you feel about today? Where will the lovely folks find you next?
It's been great. It obviously this is only my second D&D campaign, so it's a very interesting and strange experience for me because I'm coming with new players and players I've played with before, but they're all completely different. That's a bit weird.
Yeah.
It's like they all do different things. They all act differently. Some of them say very strange things that I feel I've heard in some weird dream state I had once.
Oh man!
It's been great. It's just like I like Brian, badass, loved it. Silvo seems like a heart of gold. Loved him. Stood up for dwarfs. Absolutely behind that. We'll definitely back him up if he carries on to do so. And Waves crashing against rocks, who we still need to figure out the name of. So I'm looking forward to some kind of weird charades type moment where we're trying to figure this out. And but yeah, and because this is my first D&D character I've actually made, it's been interesting coming into this character with more of a solid idea of like, these are his traits, this is like the personality he's going to have. He feels a lot more solid coming into it from the start, whereas Celsig took a while to develop as like how I wanted him to be and how I was playing him. So yeah. And I'm not sure I quite got the voice how I wanted it, but that might change a bit in the next session or two. But
that's fine. You can modify over time.
Yeah, It's a work in progress. This is session 0.5. So just all in all, very much enjoyed it. Very interested to see what happens next now that we're all united. Well, maybe we're united. We don't know that. We've met and we've been grouped.
Yes.
And I'll be back tomorrow right here doing the release stream for Mother Gunship. And the level of design of that game might be familiar because it's our very own Memories in 8-Bit who did the level design for that game.
Does he do level design of things ever?
He did level design for Mother Gunship, yes. Yes, he did. So I will definitely be looking forward to playing that. It's a great game. I've played it before. Definitely looking forward to streaming that, and I'll be back on my channel on Thursday with... Actually, don't know what. I finished Castlevania Symphony of the Night yesterday, so I'm between games again.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Yeah, no pressure tomorrow. Just make sure that Chris's game looks good. You know what I mean? Like that, no pressure. Good stuff, Saber. Thank you again. Thank you for Dashboard and Moobot, but good work today as well. Obviously, with the play and with Morthwheel, I'm excited to see more from him, and I'm also excited to see more from, which is going to be the first time I've ever used a sound for these things. I'll tell you what, Pyron, that soundboard was gold. I mean, like now part of it is it's just funny and novel, but it's also I love the idea of a character who wants to express themselves, but express themselves in a way that mimics others. And as we know from backstory that we'll find out over time, you know, I won't get into the details because that'll be up to you to reveal, but the sense of when the mimicry works and how to put together these things to express what one individual like you believes, not just what everybody around you believes. That's really neat. And I think actually even moving in a way. But it's also a lot of fun and really funny because it's so unexpected. And the idea, I mean, I was just cracking up at the idea of you, Morthwheel, wandering back in the bar and you just like walking after him and you can't really see. So I just had this image of like a parrot. I know you're not really, but like walking along and like not being able to see. It was cracking me up. And obviously the soundboard is freaking gold. So I cannot wait to see more from Waves. How did you feel about today? Where will the lovely folks find you next?
The lovely folks will see me again on GOG, so right here on Thursday with one of our water-themed games that we have a lot of this week because, I mean, look at Inanda, we all can use a little bit of splash of water this week. But tomorrow evening, I'm going to have another Blood Bowl 2 match for the Orca-Cola League that I might stream on my own channel if I feel confident enough. My team got a bad beating. And then again, next Tuesday here for Talisman. And yeah, well, so when I told my husband, you know, I would like to play a Kenku, he was like, you will not be happy playing a Kenku for a few years because you will have to keep on describing what you're saying and the noises you make. And I was like, yeah, you're right. That's kind of restrictive. And then I was like, but I could make a soundboard. And he was like, no, don't. And I was like, yes, I. That's. And so with the help of 8-bit who cut sound file for me, Ebenezer who helped me with the setup, with the stream deck I got for my birthday, and everything. So I actually managed this, and it's now working. I hope it's not getting on everybody's nerves. We're going to need to find a nice balance here between describing and using it, and adding to it over time.
Yes.
And yeah, let's see how this works. And it's also really interesting for me to just play a character who by nature is a natural follower. So let's see how all of this works out.
Very different from Greta, actually, who was always having to lead and sort of, you know, herd the cats of the rest of the party in a way, and now is not necessarily in that position, is a follower, but also obviously wants to find her own path too in the process. So yeah, that's going to be super cool. And Chad is going to have to get used to being like, so when we're like, you know, like
I'm gonna play the sound one more time
okay,
so
listen,
everybody
Chad.
knows the name.
Listen, Chad. Yeah. Yeah. You know, that's what it is. Although it sounds
genius. Absolutely genius.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's really cool. It does sound a little bit of that end like so I don't think you want a World of Warcraft Murloc. But no. Yeah, waves crashing. I love it. It's going to be super cool. Yeah, it's hard to pronounce just right. Exactly. The key is the accent is on the instead of the, you know. But anyway, it was awesome. A wonderful first session from all of you. I'm going to let you all go. I don't think we have anyone after you, but I do have to go grab dinner at some point. So I'm going to let these lovely people go. I'm going to see Pyron, Darksaber, and Peripheral Mike next week, along with Tasty Chai for Talisman Adventures. But I will see this particular crew, including Ananda, next month for the next session of D&D with GOG, Ghosts of Saltmarsh. So chat, can we get some of the love that I already see popping in chat for the wonderful players? Pyron Jade, Darksaber 2K, Peripheral Mike, and Ananda. Thank you all so much. Great work, everybody. And I'll see you for the next session.
Thank you so much.
Bye for now. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to do it for us today. Man, what a fun session that was. That was great. I mean, I'm already just like, I was just, everything visually that was going on, I was just like, yes, and yes, and yes. I was really, really digging that. And I think this is an example of what you're going to get with a good group of players that get along well with each other. And I think it really helps that everybody knows each other from the GOG side of things too. I mean, obviously Mike and Pyron and Darksaber know each other from long time of GOG, and know Ananda a little bit as well. Mike does. And then Ananda obviously knows everybody through the GOG connection also. And so you put all that together and you just get great chemistry. And it makes something like this set up really well. I actually thought we were going to spend more time on background and less time on play, and instead we got like a bunch more time on play and less on background. So that was pretty cool. I see that I'm starting to lose frames. So I don't know why I'm losing frames suddenly, but I see I'm starting to lose frames. So I'm going to bail out now. I'm getting new internet in about a week, which is good. So I'm going to have fiber internet. The hell with this nonsense. But that is going to do it for me. I hope you folks enjoyed it. If you like what you saw and heard, make sure to follow the channel, subscribe to GOG, check us out individually. I'll be back on my channel on Thursday. Thursday, I'll be back on my channel with the D&D, community D&D with the Dragon of Icespire Peak. So you'll see that with Echo Alpha X5, Triffity Matt's Hoodie, and Rock God with Shadow Mage as your DM. That'll be Thursday evening, and then Friday, my space opera Esper Genesis. And I'll be right back here next Tuesday with Talisman Adventures from Pegasus Spiele. That's going to be awesome. I can't wait. And you should all be able to see some more awesome role play with 3 of the members of that crew, plus Tasty Chai as well. So that's going to do it for me. Much love to all of you. Thank you, everybody. And session 0.5 of Ghosts of Saltmarsh is complete. I'll catch all you folks soon. Until then, with that music in the background, be good to each other. Bye for now. Gets more cold this time of year. The sun is hidden far from here. I wonder how I might atone. Whoa, it's been a year since I left home. The wind is blowing faster now. I'm searching